Happy Monday, everyone. Such as it is. I hope everyone had a good weekend. I've got my tea as usual today. Got some iced tea. This is some peach black tea. Hey, Kim Gal. I made some iced tea over the weekend. Went to a friend's place, so I brought some. I decided to try out making the iced black tea. I have some problems with it. Like with anytime I make a iced black tea, it's just like burnt aftertaste. I don't know how to describe it other than it tastes kind of burnt. That I always get with it. So I was a little worried, but this peach tea is just so good. I was like, all right, we got to try this. And this particular blend is very heavy on the peach, which I very much like. So I tried it out, and thankfully, no burnt taste. So that's nice. I think I could have put a little more sugar in there. Would have been nice, but it's fine the way it is. I guess I could also, maybe could also do with a little more salt, if you catch my meaning. Actually, on that note, I do want to amend that follower goal because I just took a look into like how Kick works and whatnot, and as it turns out, 75 followers is when I, can start having subscribers and I can start. And I'll be a partner on Kick, as it were. So we're gonna amend it. 75. That's the goal. We get to that first breakpoint. We're partnered on Kick. I'll ruin perfectly good tea for your amusement and suffer the consequences myself. Um, so we're amending that a little bit. Maybe I should like put that little. I should put a little display. I'll do it on the other screen. Actually, I can just add it here. We'll just put the. We'll reuse the one that we've had before. Yeah, it'd be really great to get there, right? All right. I'll put it here, I guess. Uh, I'm gonna do this off screen. Don't worry about it. But speaking of needing more salt, what definitely doesn't is Mr. Ben Shapiro, the man, the myth, the legend. He went to see the Barbie movie, and in fact, I pulled up one of the things, but I forgot to pull up the other the other. Ben Shapiro, famously famously failed media, excuse me, not media critic, screenwriter. Attempted to be a screenwriter, fell back into quote unquote journalism, and well, he went to see the Barbie movie, and he's definitely not mad about other people succeeding. According to him, he was dragged there by his producers. Oh, I don't have to. Wow, I'm just like all over the place today. Apparently, allegedly he was dragged by his producers to go see it. Now that said, there are allegations, and I'll go look for them after we go over this tweet, that he in fact dressed as Ken. So like, I don't know that dragged was really. Listen, man, you wanted to see a movie. It's fine. Just see a movie. It's okay to want to see a movie. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not embarrassing to be like, hey, I wanted to see the thing. Also, motherfucker has notes. Look at this. He's got a piece of paper. Motherfucker took notes. He knew he wanted to get mad ahead of time. Obviously, right? Like, if you know anything about Ben Shapiro, you should already know. Oh, this is the thing. Is there a picture of him dressed as Ken? Okay. It's just this outfit is maybe that's like possible. Okay, so apparently it's like this outfit is one of the outfits Ken wears. It's like the least memorable. It's definitely just like a very basic outfit. Black shirt, black pants. That said, it does look remarkably similar. Oh my god. It does look very similar, but I don't know. I'm not so confident about the similarity that I'll say he went dressed as Ken. I'm just saying he went to see the movie and is not comfortable admitting that he just wanted to see it. Allegedly was dragged to see it, but he has some thoughts. Let me tell you, 43 minutes worth of thoughts. Apparently, in his typical Ben Shapiro fashion, destroys the Barbie movie. Okay, stop doing that, YouTube. destroys the Barbie movie for 43 minutes. Um, Something to which was brought to task by Andrew Neil on the BBC, and he was like, "Well, did I name those videos? They're on your YouTube channel, Ben." And here we are once more, clearly having learned nothing. So, because I am the quality streamer that you know and love, because you can count on me for due diligence, I went and saw the Barbie movie only so that I could review this in good faith, and no other reason. Definitely that I not that I wanted to see it or that Amazon came wanted to see it and we thought it'd be fun and had a good time. Not that's not why. It was for research. Okay. And so over the weekend, I also went to see the Barbie movie. And so before we get into this, I want to as we do, we're honest about our opinions here, and so we're gonna talk about what my thoughts on the movie. All right. So something to consider off the bat is that okay, it is Greta Gerwig. Something to note off the bat is your expectations going into it. It's the Barbie movie. Now, I'm not saying that to be like, oh, therefore it's definitely going to be bad. All right, we'll come back to this. So much as to say, the floor is real low. We've seen a lot of these, like, well, it's a property that people like, let's pump out a movie and not care and just like see how it goes type movies. We saw that with Jungle Cruise and Battleship, though Battleship at the very least was like, I don't know, exciting. I haven't like it had explosions, I guess. But like we saw a lot of these, like it's a shit movie based on a shit property that they were like, well, we own a thing. How do we turn it into a movie and make money off of it and cash in like everyone else seems to do? All right, there's a lot of that. The Barbie movie is not that, and this is why I was bringing up the director. Greta Gerwig is a director who I haven't actually seen that much of, but what I have seen is very good. I have only seen Lady Bird, which is a phenomenal movie, and if you know me personally, you know that I have evangelized about this movie, probably to you directly, but if not, to everyone else. I think that movie is fantastic. 10 out of 10, no notes. Just a great, great movie. Made by Greta Gerwig. She also seems, based on this movie as well, to not be content to simply cash an easy paycheck, but to borrow a phrase from Folding Ideas, to try to capitalize creatively on this project. So the Barbie movie is not just like, okay, it's a toy, they made a movie so that you go see the toy movie and then buy the toy. It's not that. It involves that. Don't get me wrong. It's a movie by Mattel to sell their products. There's no, like, let's not pretend like that's not what's happening here. It's in the movie. And that's the kind of thing, like, no director is going to get around that. No creatives are going to be able to stop that. That's why the movie got made. But it is a lot more than that. There's a lot of interesting things that the movie has to say. Oh, I guess I should that's what I wanted to do. I knew I was forgetting something. We're gonna change this content warning to instead say we're gonna instead have a spoiler warning. Can I not type in this thing? There we go. You have been warned that spoilers inbound. But it is a lot more than that. There's a lot of really interesting stuff that the movie has to say. There is some stuff that I know Ben Shapiro is going to get mad about. They talk about patriarchy openly and often. It is a major subject of the film. He's going to get mad about that. Even though the depiction, I'm not going to give away like all of how that depiction goes because I'm sure we're going to talk about it. And I'm sure he's going to be factually incorrect about some of the stuff he says about it. But he's definitely going to have an issue with that. Overall, the sense in the movie that I got because the movie has like the Barbie world and the real world, and the Barbie world is like women run everything, and Ken is just kind of there. Um, it is an over the top contrast to the way the real world is, where you see Mattel has exclusively male leadership, right? And that is like synecdoche for the rest of the world. That in general, men hold all the seats of power. And there's a little bit like you might think the implication is like, oh, the right way to do things is the way they think are in Barbie world, where like everything is great and happy and perfect all the time, and because women run everything. But that doesn't seem to be the message throughout the majority of the film. In fact, it seems to be that in Barbie Land you can see through the eyes of Ken the problems that exist with that kind of structure. And then in the real world, you see the way it actually manifests. Right? You can either see through the eyes of Ken or the eyes of Barbie the problems with a system that's built this way, either in the Barbie world or the real world. I think the movie stumbles a little bit at the end, where I think it doesn't complete that message in a satisfactory way for me. Um, at the end of the movie, they like stop the Kens from doing an overthrow and they put their old constitution back into place, which I think is a little bit of a misstep. If the message is that that gender dominance is a problem and that gender equality should be the ideal, to say like, oh, we've saved the day by going back to the way things were, I think that's a little bit of a misstep. I only say it's a misstep and not that my read is completely off, because there are some, well, one that's like pervasive before that, the feeling that gender equality is preferable to what we're seeing. It's not stated outright, but you can feel it, or at least I did. But also after they put the Constitution back into place, the President Barbie says something to the effect of like, we're not going to go back and do things the way they used to be done, but it's never concretized. That's where I think like it could have like completed the message a little bit better. Um, and then there's also like Ken asking about being on the Supreme Court, and President Barbie is like, oh well, no, but you can have the same amount of power of positions in the courts as women do in the real world, which is like a neat joke. Like, I like the joke, and I kind of get the implication of that, like, see, doesn't it suck when like when equality is barred from you? And if you think there's an issue with Barbie Land being the way it is, the implied solution is like in the real world to have gender equality. Um, but it doesn't like give it doesn't I don't know, it doesn't feel like a gender equal conclusion, even though a lot of the prior stuff feels like it's pointing that way. Now that just might be my political bias. I understand that. We're gonna bring all political bias into anything we watch. Lots of bias, and Ben Shapiro certainly did. That's why we're here, because this is absolutely going to be hilarious. There's no way it hasn't been. I haven't seen it yet, but there's zero chance this isn't absolutely hilarious. Um, if you're asking the question, is this a good movie? I had to do some thinking about it, because like, depends on what you mean, right? And how we're approaching things. For what the movie is supposed to be, or I shouldn't say supposed to be, but like it might be expected to be, it's a good movie. It's definitely not a bad movie for sure. But like, given that it's the Barbie movie, like we saw, like I mentioned with like Jungle Cruise or like or Battleship, or I'm sure there's like other ones that I just can't think of, or like all the movies in the '90s that existed only to sell toys. Um, it's not that. It is actually trying to be a good movie. It's just not. It just is held back a little bit by the fact that it's a corporate movie, I guess is where I'd say it. It's not like, I'm not gonna say it's a 10 out of 10 movie, but it is a better than average movie. And it's fun and lighthearted when it wants to be, and serious when it wants to be, and has good positive messages. Uh, and I think that overall makes for a good movie, and that's where I land on it. It's probably not as funny as you expected it to be, but that's because it's trying to take itself seriously in a very earnest way, which I appreciate. um, it's trying to be serious and take itself seriously and not hide from that. It doesn't break from the serious moments with like that, the Marvel humor of like, but ha ha, like no, it allows itself to take it to be serious, to be heartfelt, to be sincere, and in contrast with the parts that are funny. So because of that, it's not thoroughly a comedy. It is comedic though. It has funny stuff in it, which I'm sure you've seen in the trailers. So that's my thoughts on the Barbie movie. Let's hear Ben's. That's what we're here to find out about, right? All right, Ben, let's go.
Well, folks, I just got back from the theaters seeing Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'm about to review
Oh, he
both
did
of them.
the
I'm going to tell you which one of these is the best
Barbenheimer,
blockbuster
Barbie.
of 2023 and which one is maybe the worst.
So we already know where he's going, right? Like if one's the best and one's the worst. I haven't seen Oppenheimer. I did not do the both movies in the one day as you're supposed to. So I'm not gonna have really anything to say about the Oppenheimer stuff. We're just gonna watch the Barbie things. But I know that his take. I mean, even as we Googled it, we saw some of those articles were talking about how people were taking him to task for how bad his takes are. And of course he's saying it's bad because he's like talking about how woke it is. Hold on, let me go back to that. Because he had that tweet we were looking at. Oh, this is another. There we go. Where is his like famous, his like well-known tweet at this point? I think it's this one here. I just want the picture. My producers dragged me to see Barbie, and it was one of the most woke movies I have ever seen. So, what people mean by woke is nonsense now, but yes, it is pretty progressive. It is obviously the only way you could make a Barbie movie that's like not woke. I mean, I get is like if it's really regressive, I guess. Um, yeah. Oh, that's something else I wanted to mention that I had forgotten to. One of my thoughts at leaving the theater was just like you kind of have two choices with a Barbie movie. You can either try to have a message and like really give it a shot, or make just some garbage schlock movie. And it seemed like the creatives were not willing to do the latter. And so yeah, there's going to be a message, and they're going to try, and like that it's woke. Like I don't know what else you're gonna do with this. Barbie is such a stereotypical icon. Unless you wanted the movie to be like she learns that being a 50s housewife is the real way and that Ken should be the star of the show. Like, unless he wanted that, like, I don't know what the fuck else was going to happen. My full review of this flaming garbage heap of a film, absolutely not that. Very, very much not that. There are moments that are like, okay, this is clearly here only to sell products, but for the most part, the movie was trying to be good.
Bet he loved our movie, right, Ken?
For those of you who can't wait that long, I'm going to give my review of the Barbie movie in the most Oppenheimer fashion.
God, the editing on this, it's driving. Oh my God, it's hello, fellow kids. Yeah, let's go.
Run.
Stop trying to be funny or cool. You're not. This feels like I'm a mid 30-year-old version of ew, girls are gross. They play with dolls. I'm gonna smash them. Like for real, like, dude. You're acting like the like 8-year-old who's grossed out by his kid sister's like his kid sister playing with dolls or whatever. Oh, okay. So it is mostly about Barbie.
So the things I do for my audience, my producers dragged me to go see Barbie.
No, you just wanted to see the movie. It's okay. It's okay. You could want to see a movie.
I have thoughts. This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN.
I don't believe that you have thoughts.
With my generalized assessment of the movie. This movie is not just a piece of shit. This movie is a flaming piece of dog piled atop an entire dumpster on fire, piled atop a landfill filled with dog shit.
He's definitely not mad that he's not a screenwriter.
It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. On every possible level, it is a horrific movie. The only thing that can be said for this film is production design. Production design is really nice.
It is. That is true. The production design is great.
It's really hard to screw that up. It's really hard to screw that up because you literally have this.
I mean, you say that, but that's not entirely true. As we even saw in the clips he showed, those were the first few when they were like, it's Barbie and Ken. Those are like them going from Barbie worlds to the real world. But the other one where she's at her dream house, it's in Barbie world, and it feels very plastic, even without everything being made out of plastic, right? You can see in the backgrounds, hold on, you can see in the backgrounds that
really nice.
Like a lot of this, even the stuff that isn't plastic, looks plastic, right? It looks like toys, and like you can look at the walkway and the road. It all feels very play-like. The pool is another great example, if you can see on the side there. Um, it all feels very fake without being literally just putting the toy there. And like even the people look like plastic. Like in this shot, you can see the two Barbies, not the Margot Robbie from behind here, but on the left and right in their own houses, they look like they're literally made of plastic, and that's not nothing, right? That does take effort. It's not as trivial as making it seem.
It's really hard to screw that up. It's really hard to screw that up because you literally have this to model after. All you have to do is this, but big. Okay, it's really not tough. But put aside all of the beautiful
That's not
costumes, which
entirely
is
true.
there for the ladies, and all of the production
Beautiful costumes, for the ladies. Definitely not coming from a position where gender roles are super important. All right, let's
and
go.
design and the Barbie universe and all of that. Every joke that happens in this film happens basically within the first 45 seconds of the film.
That's not true.
So,
at
for
all.
example,
That's
Barbie
just not
turns
true
on
at
the
all.
water and there's no water. Ooh, because like in Barbie house, there's no actual water. Do you get it? And then she drinks, but there's no actual liquid in the actual cup. Oh my!
So by the way, I don't even know that I'd call those jokes. The feel I got in the movie was this is like bringing into like how that like this is how the world is and what feels normal as contrasted by the things that are like it's a little funny, I guess, but it's to me it to me felt a little bit more like this is we're showing you how this world looks and acts and feels and what's normal in for the things that are not the same as our world. But like I guess it's a little funny. Like I guess it's kind of a joke, but no, there's much more jokes than that.
My God, because she's a Barbie doll. Oh, I get it. Okay, that's all the jokes.
That's not.
There are no more jokes for the rest of the film.
That's just not true.
The movie's a show.
Like in fact, there's a well-known joke that like is making it's I think it's in the trailers where like Ken is talking about like my job isn't even lifeguard. It's just beach, and you're so good at beach, Ken. Like that's a joke. It happens early in the movie, but it's still a joke that's not in the first 45 seconds. There's also ones later, like he goes, like when he goes with Barbie to the real world, it's like, what if there's beach? You'll need my help, which is silly. But then later he finds a beach, and it's like, there was beach. You're like, okay, that's funny. There are jokes. There are lots of jokes.
Okay, so
It is not as full of jokes as you would expect a full comedy to be. I don't know if it's classified as a comedy, but I don't think it is a comedy so much as a movie that with comedic elements, with a lot with a lot of comedy in it. But I don't think it's a comedy film, if that makes sense. Like if you understand the difference.
Actually, the movie is a show. I want to ask.
Kind of like The Martian, actually. If you've seen that, The Martian is a very funny movie. There's a lot of jokes, but it's not a comedy, even though it won like best comedy or whatever. I think it's more. I think the Barbie movie has more jokes than The Martian and is more comedic in tone. Certainly a lot more lighthearted, but in the same regard, where it's funny, but it's not a comedy.
Who's the intended audience for the film? Who's the intended audience for this film?
Yeah, that is a
Tell
good
me who the
question.
intended
I'm not
audience for
actually
this film is.
sure.
And I can tell two ways. One, the previews on the film, and two, the people in the audience. So, the intended audience for this film is moms and their 8-year-old daughters.
Yeah,
That's the intended audience for the
kind
film.
of true.
I know because the previews for the film were all kids' movies. I'm talking like G or PG rated kids' films. We're talking like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Trolls 4 or whatever it is.
That said, this movie is rated PG-13, so like, no, it's for like young teen, like probably like 13, like preteen to young teen, and like probably girls. It has a lot of messages for girls, but that said, there are a lot of messages that are very much not gendered, or at the very least that you should be able to get value from, irrespective of it, like even if you're not a girl.
Those were all the previews, right? All the previews are actually directed at what the audience is supposed to be for this film. And if you look in the audience,
So by the way, like it's also not the movie's fault if the trailer, people that make the trailers are not the same people who make the movie necessarily. If the trailers give an incorrect impression, like that doesn't make the movie worse. That makes the trailers are a problem. But he's using his impressions from the trailers to be like, oh well, it wasn't like what the trailer said. That moves the movie's bad. No, it's a problem with the trailers. But the movie isn't necessarily trying to be what the trailers are showing.
Youngish moms.
I haven't seen
moms,
any of the trailers
but they're
either, so I
like
can't speak to it.
6,
too
7,
much.
8-year-old girls. That's the entire crew. This movie is not made for any of those people. In fact, this movie is made for no one. This movie
Well, that's
is
not
going to
true
make
at all.
a bunch of money week one because
It's actually the problem he's having is that it's not made for a specific group. It's made to be a movie, and like you can get a lot out of it. I am clearly not the like Barbie demographic, but I enjoyed the movie, and I went with to see it because my girlfriend was into it, and I wanted to review Ben Shapiro's video. Um, and it seemed like there was some funny stuff going on. I don't know that I would have necessarily gone to see the movie just left to my own devices, but that's also the case with most movies. That's not speaking to this film.
the marketing effort has been extraordinary. I mean, whoever's the marketing team over at Warner Brothers is doing
Very
an amazing
true.
job. Week one, this
Marketing
thing is
teams are
going to
great.
clean up at the domestic box office. My prediction is going to just absolutely fall off a cliff after that. The repeat business on this movie is going to be non-existent.
We can monitor
because it
that,
was
right?
written by two people who are so smug and self-satisfied, in Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, that they have no audience.
Smug and
like,
self-satisfied. Okay, sure.
Who thought it's a great idea? Let's bring on the people who wrote Lady Bird and Marriage Story to make a movie about a plastic doll.
Let's bring on two people who made good movies to make a movie that Ben wanted to be a bad movie.
That is generally played with by 5 to 9-year-old young girls.
But people have okay. This even comes up in the movie. People have lots of associations with Barbie because it's been a part of the cultural milieu for more than half a decade. What, like 75 years, something like that? The first Barbie was when the first, it was sometime in the 50s. 1959. So, what, 80 years? Yeah, there's a lot of people who have a lot of associations with Barbie, and there've been a lot of permutations and a lot of like even the movie goes out of the way. Like, you expect that the girl that has been playing with Margot Robbie's Barbie is this like middle school girl. No, it's her mom who like remembers playing with her daughter about this, and like it's the whole point is that this is not a thing. It has been in culture for so long that it is no longer something where like it only like a 10-year-old should really care about this. There are elderly people who grew up with Barbie because like it's been around for so long.
So the basic idea of the film, they really have no basic idea of the film.
And
They
it
don't
has
know whether
meaning
they
to
hate
them.
Barbie or that we're supposed to kind of like Barbie. It seems they kind of despise Barbie.
What?
It's a fascist emblem, as we'll get to.
What? Wait, literally, what are you talking about? You're obviously supposed to empathize with Barbie the whole time. Maybe you struggled because she's a woman and you're like, they don't have feelings, and they're not human or whatever. But like, no, you're supposed to like Barbie, and there's exactly one line where someone says the word fascist. And at least to my ears, it felt like a teenage girl not knowing what that word means, right? Like how teenagers don't use words correctly and will call things fascist that aren't. It shows up exactly once, and it's definitely not pervasive. Like, no. But of course, Ben hears the word fascist, and he's like, nope, that's what this movie's about now.
The basic sort of premise of the film, politically speaking, is that men and women are on two sides of the divide, and they hate each other. And literally the only way
Nope,
you can have
not
a happy
true.
world.
So that's like true only if you exclusively look at the literal conflict that happens and not the motivations behind the conflict, because Ken appears to be the villain of the film if you're thick, if you have no media comprehension, which, to be fair to Ben Shapiro, I guess informs his position. But no, like, Ken isn't the villain. He is the put upon person at the outset in ways that are like kind of subtle, but like he's clearly really insecure because of his position in society. Tries to take over, but is in a way a victim of circumstance as much as anybody. He's not really the victim, and he's not really the villain. He doesn't ever really come off as villainous so much as like misguided and like and enjoying the position of power that he has found himself in when he's been denied it for so long. But like the resolution of that conflict isn't like to defeat Ken, it's just to like prevent him from doing wrong things and then deal with his emotional problems, which isn't like really what you do with a villain. Not really. And so that conflict, no, isn't that like they're feuding and they're always at odds. It's like this is why I say there's that sense of gender equality being the real message of the sense of The problem is that they were pitted, that the Barbies and the Kens were pitted against each other in some way. In the real world, with the Kens, right, men being on top, and in the Barbie world, with the Barbies, the women being on top, and that conflict is the problem, not who's on top. But this is the kind of thing, like, leaving the movie, I also knew Ben was going to have no ability to engage with, because remember, he's not just a right winger. He's like one of the right wingers. He's in his he is a fascist for what it's worth. It's just his fascism is Jewish fascism. He wants a Jewish ethno state. Like, he's a big Zionist to the point where he'll say, like, you're not a real Jew if you're not pro-Israel, which is buck wild. But but what I mean to say by that is hierarchy is built into his thinking. He thinks it's good and natural, and you can't do away with it. So when someone says the problem is the structure where one is on top, he can't engage. Of course he can't engage. And this is kind of what I thought. I just didn't expect it to manifest in this way. Ben, you're full of surprises.
World is if the women ignore the men and the men ignore the women. That seems to be the final outcome of this film.
No, what? That's explicitly not what they said. I knew. This is why I watched the movie, because I knew he was just gonna say some shit that was just factually wrong. And if you don't watch the movie, you'll have no way. Like, the people watching Ben Shapiro are not going to go watch the Barbie movie to find out if he's wrong. They're gonna trust their big brain boy to tell them all the true things about it is woke, it's bad, and they're gonna move on. But no, it's explicitly not what they say.
I was trying to separate this into problems with plot and problems with character and problems with the politics of the film, but they're all intertwined because the thing is just a mess. It doesn't make any sense. Plot-wise, it makes no sense. Character-wise, it makes no sense. So let's just go.
We'll get into that when he
lots of spoilers,
says anything of substance
I'm about to save you so
that we
much
can
time
respond
because
to.
This movie is 2 hours. It feels like it is longer than the Wagnerian ring cycle.
Okay, no, it does not feel that long, but it does feel long.
It's at least 2 minutes too long.
That said, wow, to be quibbling about 2 minutes. 2 hours is not exceptionally long for a movie. Also, it does feel longer than 2 hours, but I feel like there was more. You're getting more story than you would expect. Not, oh god, it's so long, it's interminable. But for Ben, it is, because he's only there to complain about it. Right? He was taking notes. The Wagnerian ring cycle is like a series of like 3 or 5 operas, something like that. It's very fucking long. So no, it's not. Does not feel like that. And he's literally 2 minutes long.
Ring cycle. It does not end. Every scene is at least 2 minutes too long. Every single scene, every beat
not true
is 2 minutes too
whatsoever.
Long. It is a bad film.
There are a lot of action scenes that feel like they go on a little bit long, but then you remember, like, it's trying to be a silly kids movie, right? Like, you got to get the attention again. Like, I don't even know that necessarily they're that much too long, but there are some parts where I'm like, yeah, if this was a little shorter, it's not the end of it would have been fine. But it's also not the end of the world that it wasn't. They didn't feel interminable.
Outside the politics, like, really, I was sitting there with a bunch of my producers. I'm a little bit more political than my producers. My producers were watching this, putting the politics aside. It is a bad movie.
I mean, no.
So why is it getting 91% on Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh, because it's not. Because you have because your producers work for and with you. They're probably equally stupid. Like, they're, first of all, you say they're less political. They're probably exactly as political. They just don't think it's political. They just think it's natural or whatever. Like, a lot of people are like this. They're like, I'm apolitical in the sense that they think all of their positions are not, not up for debate. They're just true and correct, and they're right about everything. A lot of people do this. But they work for the Daily Wire. They absolutely are political and have similar views to you. So of course they're gonna be like saying it's a bad. And they're probably like 50-something-year-old men who are like, ew, girl stuff is stupid. Like, let's be real. It has 91% on Rotten Tomatoes because it's a good movie, all right?
Reviewers is if you have the right politics, and those politics are sufficiently slyly inserted, then it will get a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So this is also like weirdly conspiratorial for the fact that the politics is very out in the open. They don't try to hide it because what's the point? Ben Shapiro's going to scream about it anyway, so be clear about it. No, the movie is very clear about its politics.
And I mean, boy, is this Drek. This is a Death Star sized piece of Drek. It is like, that's no moon. That's a direct station.
God,
That this movie. Okay, so let's
All right,
jump into
Ben.
it. I have like pages and pages of notes on
Yeah,
this
he took
horrific
notes.
piece of-
Motherfucker
I
took
mean, my
pages and
goodness.
pages of
Okay,
notes.
so-
Why does it feel so long? Because you're writing down everything you think is wrong with it. That's why it felt long. Dipshit.
So
Oh
let's
my
start
God.
right at the beginning. So it's from the beginning, you know what this movie is going to be, and it's going to be a very cynical take on what Barbie is, which is so weird.
By the
I
way,
don't
it's
know
not
why,
cynical at
Mattel-
all. It's actually very positive. There's one person in the entire movie who has a cynical view of Barbie, uh, and the rest of the movie, after they lay into Barbie about it, the rest of the movie is dedicated the towards basically combating that stance to say no, Barbie is at the very least can be, but also has been a positive influence. No, the whole movie is a repudiation of the one cynical person saying that Barbie is bad.
would turn over its IP.
And by the way, that person changes their mind because of course they do.
Filmmakers who clearly hate the IP. It's
What?
as though you were
No,
going to
they
make Toy
don't.
Story, except that toys are all evil. They're all bad, and you're supposed to hate them and you should burn them. Because that's kind of the message of the film, is that the Barbies are
No,
bad for the world. Okay,
it's
so
not.
it begins
It's not.
by trying to uphold the original vision of Barbie. What was the original magical vision of Barbie? We have Helen Mirren here to tell us, in the form of a narrator apparently played by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's speaking
What?
from heaven. And we get a 2001 A Space Odyssey flashback.
Yeah,
What'd you get?
that was another joke that existed that he's just gonna say isn't there. Yeah, the joke like Barbie, but so it feels really weird at first, and I'm sure he has notes about like how weird it is to be like, oh, like Barbie's this big important thing. The point of that segment is to be like, well, that's how the Barbies think of it.
And who's the audience for this? If the reference points in this film, it references variously.
You don't have to know.
Marcel Proust.
You don't
It
have if you're
references
okay. A
Robert
13-year-old
Evans
doesn't
and the
need to know.
cinematography of The Godfather. It references 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, the 13-year-old doesn't need to know. First of all, they've heard that music and had this scenario, even if they don't know what movie it's from. Most people have. But also, you don't need to know that this is a 2001 Space Odyssey reference. You can just be like, okay, this is like a funny dramatization of the scene. It's fine.
This is a movie made for moms and their 7-year-old girls.
Sure, okay.
Well, folks,
Why?
less than 2
By
hours
the
of
way,
my
what's the
precious
problem
time,
with
2
that?
hours I will never get back. 2 hours where on my deathbed I will wish that I had not spent that time doing.
He's
viscerally
so
angry.
mad
But I'm
about seeing a movie he didn't like that he chose to go to.
gonna talk to you
Okay.
about something that makes me much happier, and that is our trusted private
Nope,
detective
nope,
blogging
nope,
utility.
nope,
That
nope,
technology happened.
nope,
Makes it
nope,
Alice Cooper,
nope,
Deep
nope,
XP,
nope,
girls
nope.
would only so.
All right.
It starts with Helen Mirren explaining that back in the day, girls would only play with dolls that looked like babies. And then she says that this could be fun, at least for a while anyway. Ask your mother, because your mother actually hates you and doesn't like you.
No, the joke there, you absolute moron, is that that being a mom isn't all sunshine and roses, and sometimes, yeah, it can be exhausting and difficult. And it's not always just fun. That it's not that your mom hates you, it's that your mom has struggled with being a mom because everyone struggles with being a parent to some extent.
The mom, you see. So if you ask your mom, she wants to play at not being a mom sometimes. Okay, so
Or maybe she doesn't want that to be the only thing in her life. That's also part of the thing of like it's kind of like hinted at the beginning, like they don't really follow through with this thought, so I'm not sure that it's supposed to be there, but like why should girls only be playing at being a housewife and a mom, right? Shouldn't there be like other things in life for them? Why are they playing at like, well, this is going to be your life going forward, so get used to it now. And the saying of like the thing saying like ask your mom, yeah, because there's more to life than that, and like if that was everything and the only thing like that, there's more you want out of life than to do the one thing that society told you to do.
The basic premise is Barbie is supposed to be the independent woman who liberates all womanhood.
No,
But she
that's supposed
fails.
to be
And
what
she fails
Barbie.
for 2 reasons.
Yeah.
One, she's actually a tool of the patriarchal capitalist system. And two, the real
Well,
world is
actually,
rejecting-
no. The movie doesn't go into why Barbie failed. Just that Barbies think that they like solved patriarchy, basically, but they haven't. They don't, the movie. I don't think the movie really says anything as to why Barbie didn't solve all social gender problems, which is a ridiculous thing to expect. It just says that they didn't.
the message of Barbie, which is that women should run everything. Okay, so
Well, that's okay. So, Ben, I know you struggle with screenwriting, so this is going to be something I'm sure you struggle with. But character growth is a thing in stories. A person at the beginning of the movie might not have the same outlook as that same person at the end of the movie. And usually what they're trying to say is at the beginning, their outlook was wrong. So yeah, Barbie at the beginning is like, yeah, women should run everything. And at the end, doesn't even feel comfortable living in Barbie Land anymore. Her outlook has changed. And as I say, the movie says that things are going to be different, even though I don't feel like they followed through on that message well enough.
This is all not implicit. This is explicitly said. At the beginning, the monologue.
Yeah, at the
you have Helen Mirren
beginning.
saying, because Barbie can be anything, women can be anything. At least that's what the Barbies think. See, in the real world, women can't be anything. That's one of the messages of the film.
Well, it is the case that women have not been everything, right? That's just objectively true. There's never been a woman president of the United States, for example. The first time there was a woman vice president was literally this administration. If things were truly gender equal, you would expect that, on average, most professions would be like kind of split evenly between the two, between men and women, and like with exceptions for non-binary people, of course. But like, that's not how things are, and most CEOs are not men, or sorry, are not women. Most positions of power are held by men. In the Forbes top 500, I think there's exactly one woman. Maybe there are more than that. But like there are the vast majority is men. Clearly, there's unequal power, but of course Ben can't acknowledge any of that. And it is a positive affirmation to say, yeah, women can be anything, and that's how it should be. That women should have the freedom to do the things they want to do with their life, and like be an astronaut if they want, or a president, or a Supreme Court justice. This shouldn't be a thing where like, well, you're a woman, so the odds of that happening are exceptionally lower. That shouldn't be the case. That's more what the movie's trying to say with that line. But of course, Ben Shapiro.
In the real world, men run pretty much everything.
And that's true.
Which is weird. Who greenlit this piece of shit? I mean, Greta
Wait,
Gerwig.
are you serious? Yeah. Wait, are you serious? It can't be true that men run everything, because otherwise they wouldn't acknowledge that that statement exists. No, they're positioning themselves as like fighting against that while still being run mostly by men, right?
Good living off of this. Margot Robbie is playing the lead. In
Yeah.
fact, the entire cast, aside from basically Ryan Gosling, is women. So,
One movie has women in it, therefore men don't run everything. God damn it, Ben. You can't be this stupid.
it seems like women are doing okay.
Guys, there's definitely not a problem that there's never been a woman president, because look, there's a movie about Barbie that has women in it.
But, again, put aside the meta logic of it. I'm going to go through like a lot of beats here. So it starts off with the idea that mommy dolls are bad and insufficient. But then they criticize Mattel for discontinuing a mommy doll named Midge. Right? Midge is the pregnant doll. And
I don't think they criticize Mattel for discontinuing. I think they're making a joke about the discontinued products from Mattel, because they're kind of funny. They include one with like a Barbie that had a TV in her back, and one where like when you raise her arm, her boobs get bigger. Like, they're not saying these should still be products. They're saying what has been tried has been kind of silly.
discontinued. They're like, that's bad.
They don't
But
say
hold
that's
on,
bad.
You just said that dolls about motherhood are bad, but then this one.
No. Okay, so again, this is like the black and white thinking that Ben is incapable of doing anything other than. No, they're not saying mother dolls are bad. It's saying that it is exclusively housework and mommy dolls. That's the problem. That like there's nothing else, and that maybe there are other things that you want, and that like you can still play with the baby dolls if you want, and the like housework toys or whatever, but like maybe there should be more than that. Why should that be the only thing?
Don't look for any sort of logical coherence.
From
There's a
you, I know.
Citizens United reference. They say all of the members of the Barbie Supreme Court are
It's
women.
based as fuck, by the way.
And then
The
they are speaking out about Citizens United.
Yeah, they have a scene where they're like, where they're overturning the Citizens United ruling, which basically ruled that corporations are people. Don't ask how they thought that made sense. Therefore, Oh, the corporations are people, and money is speech. Therefore, it would be a violation of the First Amendment to restrict the amount to which corporations can donate to political campaigns, which at every level is incredibly stupid, even if it's legally justified, which maybe it's not. I don't know. And yeah, there's a scene where they overturn that, which is based as fuck.
That corporations are not people. It's literally a Citizens United reference.
Yes.
Who is
It doesn't. Okay. So Ben, things can work on multiple levels. I feel like we have to get real basic with this guy. For a 13-year-old, they see that and they're like, like they're doing law stuff. It's big, important law things, and they're smart and know and understand because it's put with a lot of. It's expressed in a lot of large words and like kind of like built to look impressive if you don't understand what they're talking about. And so a 13-year-old can be like, yeah, they're like doing big legal smart stuff. And then the parents that take their 13-year-old to go see it can actually engage with what's going on with the contents or the subject they're describing. And that's a good thing, Ben. It's good that the parents that take their kids aren't just sitting there going, okay, this is for my kid and I can't engage.
the 7-year-old girl who's like, yes, I too have a very informed perspective on the Citizens United.
Like has this guy never seen a cartoon that has an adult joke? And it's like, obviously the kid doesn't get it, but it's not who it's for, and it's fine because they don't know they missed out on that joke.
Decision. And then they say that logic and feeling at the same time, it doesn't diminish us. It proves that we are more than, right? It's all propagandistic.
Propagandistic to be like, hey, it's good to both engage with your emotions and to have a logical side to yourself. It's propaganda to be like, yeah, we don't have to be like the emotion creatures, and we also don't have to be beings of pure logic. We can be human and have both. This is what he's mad about.
And then it sets up the dichotomy. The dichotomy is that men and women are in complete and utter contradistinction in terms of their roles. So women only exist if they are completely free of men, and men only exist if they are completely free.
So that's not true, actually. And in fact, the movie goes to decent lengths to show that, well, one, Barbie isn't happy, even though she's expected to be. And Ken isn't happy, even though he's expected to be. Ken, most notably, isn't happy with the Barbies in charge, and actually isn't that happy with the Kens in charge either. The whole, like, it's very clear that no, they're, oh god,
Free of women. And the problem for Ken,
being free,
yeah,
and like, yeah,
for Ken, is that Ken is dependent on Barbie.
Yeah,
right? Because Ken is kind of secondary.
And
we also said
a
at the
bad
very
thing.
beginning that Barbie doesn't like Ken. She finds Ken annoying. She finds Ken ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which, again, is sort of against the concept of Ken and Barbie.
Right. Okay, so, Ben, things can be different than what you expect them to be. It's called a subversion, and also, especially given the point of the movie is to break away from what is expected of Barbie and to be more than and to be yourself and be like to be like, well, Ken has to be the love interest would be pretty counterproductive.
But the basic idea is that Barbie is an independent woman and Ken is completely superfluous.
And by the way, Ken's arc concludes with him learning to appreciate being him. Like his like triumphant moment was like, Ken is me. That he can just be himself, not need Barbie for validation or for like the permission to exist, or for and instead can just be himself. He gets over that problem.
Then go to the beach, and there's a scene on the beach where the Kens are supposed to be the lifeguards, and the ladies are playing on the beach.
No, he's not. He's very explicitly not the lifeguard. His job is beach. He does a very good job at beach.
A series of gay masturbation jokes.
He actually does a very bad job at beach.
For children. They're talking about beaching each other off.
Yeah.
Right?
Again, it's a joke kids aren't necessarily going to get. By the way, it's PG-13, so like a 13-year-old is going to get it, and it's going to be miraculously funny for a 13-year-old. In fact, I can imagine no joke in the movie is funnier to a 13-year-old than the Kens yelling at each other that they're gonna beat each other off. All right, that's not. That's probably the funniest part in the movie for a 13-year-old. Which, remember, the movie's PG-13. And if a kid doesn't get it, the joke can be they're challenging each other to beach. The hell does that even mean, right? That's the joke. But of course, Ben is like, oh, it's sex things. They're trying to shove it. Kids don't get it. It's fine.
There's like a line where Ken says to another one of the Kens, "I'm going to beat you off."
Yeah.
Get it? You get it? Because it's like,
Yeah.
beat you off,
and it's
beat
funny.
you off. And then they repeat that no less than 4 or 5 times in the span of.
He's okay. Weirdly, he's actually underselling it. They say it like 20 times in the course of like a minute. It's a little much, but like again, PG-13. 13-year-olds are probably dying as they're doing this.
45 seconds.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beat you off with you any day, Ken.
Anyone who
No
wants to beat him off
DMCA,
has to beat me off first.
I will
Yeah.
beat both of you off at the same time.
Beat both of us off?
Nobody's gonna beat anyone off.
Bazinga.
Oh my god. He contrasts that with like this garbage ass. Okay.
Because it's just such a great gay masturbation joke. You gotta
Well,
go
okay,
for it. I mean,
okay. It
what
doesn't
else
have to be
would
gay
7-year-old
masturbation. It's
girls
just
in
a
the
big
audience think
masturbation
you don't
joke.
go for the gay masturbation joke on the beach. Clearly. We get black female President Barbie because this is, of course, the greatest of all possible worlds. So Kamala Harris, the Barbie version, is the president.
What is wrong with you? That's not Kamala Harris. Not all black people are the same black person. She doesn't look anything like Kamala Harris. It's just, here's President Barbie. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the President Barbie that came out, just that was what the President Barbie looked like. And they were like, all right, we'll get someone. Or they found a good actor for the role and didn't say, well, Barbie's supposed to be white. They probably didn't think about it as much as you did, Ben.
Of the United States. And then we get the break, right? Then we get the actual plot point. Plot point number 1. Barbie has irrepressible thoughts of death. So again, at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, isn't this a kid's movie? Isn't this supposed to be made for 7-year-old girls?
Nope, it's not. PG-13. But also, I don't know if you know, Ben, children can also have dark thoughts, and knowing how to handle them is important. We'll get personal here. First time I had suicidal ideation, I was 10 years old? 10 years old, maybe 9. This happens. They should know how to handle it. And again, PG-13.
Nope. It's about existential angst over mortality. That's what.
Motherfuckers say angst. This fucker say angst when he means angst? Alright,
This film is about. Now, again, interlaced through all of this is just more and more and more politics, right? One of the Barbies is in
it's not interlaced. It's the subject of the movie.
Barbie, and this is treated.
Oh, also, I'm not sure that it is. Is it a trans Barbie? Like, people will have to let me know. They don't say this Barbie is trans, by the way. If she is, like, cool, whatever, who cares? But like that he's mad that maybe this is a trans Barbie, like, okay.
Totally normally, as though this is a female Barbie.
No, it's not a female Barbie. It's a girl Barbie. It's a trans girl Barbie. But I guess you're highly committed to those two, gender and sex being the same thing. So
Just again, deeper than my own. So Barbie starts to have these irrepressible thoughts of death, and this comes along with physical symptoms, like, for example, her feet flatten out. Again, this is one of the few cute jokes in the movie. Is that
I
Barbie
thought there were
walks
no
around,
jokes.
And just like a normal Barbie doll, when you take off the shoes, the feet are shaped like the shoe, like
Yeah.
the high heel. But now she is turning into like a real world person.
And by
so
the
her
way,
feet
this is like a
collapse.
pretty reasonable foreshadowing of the story where she starts as this very stereotypical, like, this is what women are expected to be, and like gender role, like defining icon, and learns instead to be more about gender equality and not fitting in with a very gendered space anymore. But it's actually pretty good filmmaking.
Right? And so she goes to see Weird Barbie. So Weird Barbie is a Barbie.
Weird Barbie
played
is a
with
great joke,
too
by the
hard
way.
And has all the knowledge, not only about Barbie Land, but also about the real world. And apparently, there's a connection between the people playing with the Barbies and the Barbies. So if the people playing with Barbies are sad, then the Barbies also get sad. Weird that this has only happened to Barbie, because it turns out that lots of people are sad and have played with Barbies for a very long time. But
So Ben, this isn't a real universe thing. They're trying to tell a story, and so if it would be like, oh, shouldn't this have happened? Sure, who cares? They're trying to tell this story. They're not trying to set up an extended universe with world building and lore. They even hand wave, like, what the fuck even is Barbie Land?
that's the plot point. Fine. And again, the concept of like a Barbie that was played with too hard is very funny, because everybody has seen that before, and they somehow blow this. Somehow they make this into a not funny thing.
They actually don't blow it. It actually is very funny.
Ugly, and she has bad makeup, and all the rest.
No, it's not bad makeup. So she has crayon on her face. The joke is like, look, this is where the kid drew on my face. It's not bad makeup.
She informs Barbie she has to go to the real world, and she has to find the person who is playing with her, and she has to make that person feel better, because that will heal the problem that she's having in Barbie Land. Okay, so we have our plot point, right? We have the thing that's going to launch us off into the rest of the movie.
The call to action.
And then it's just a complete mess from here on in.
It's not.
At least to this point, it's kind of dumb but coherent. From here on in, it makes no sense at all. Again, Kate McKinnon sets up the dichotomy that pretty much the makers of the film hate Barbie by suggesting that you can live in Fantasyland with Barbie and you can take the Barbie shoe, or you can take Birkenstocks, right? You can become like a Portland lesbian and you can learn about reality. That's going to be the choice that you have to make.
So the actual choice that exists there, first of all, isn't a choice. The whole point is, like, as much as you might want to bury your head in the sand and go back to the way things were, you can't. You have to address the problems that have come up in your life, and Barbie, in fact, tries to ignore them. But the difference, of course, is, like, do you want the enforced gender role where you wear high heels all the time, or, like, do you want to sometimes wear sandals because they're comfy? Like, that's kind of the implication there.
But not before she makes a joke about Ken and wanting to see the nude blob he is packing under those pants.
Somebody said that?
Perfect for 8-year-old girls, ladies.
Again,
Mothers,
PG-13.
Be warned. Ken and Barbie head off to the real world to try to find the person who is playing with Barbie. And immediately, upon arriving in the real world, Barbie is hit with an overwhelming tsunami of sexism. Like, right away, boom. She walks in.
So, you understand it's a movie, right? And if it was like, oh, it would take a week, they couldn't show that, right? But also, I mean, women can hit me up in the chat or in the comments. This is not necessarily unusual. Women receive a lot of harassment. If you don't believe me, try playing an online video game with a voice chat. Like, play with, like, your wife or something, Ben, and just have her talk in the voice chat and see what happens. You'll see it instantly.
And a bunch of men just leer at her and say, "Give us a smile."
Well, first of all, a lot of them are joking about how their 90s as fuck outfits. But yes, a lot of people are also catcalling and sexually harassing her because they have to get to the conflict, Ben. You're complaining the movie is too long. They have to get to it.
Which is something that no one under the age of 70 has said to a woman in the recent past. Give us a smile.
I'm sure
Seriously?
you think so.
We get Barbie explaining that all of the men who are leering at her and gazing at her, they have an undertone of violence. Everything's she's threatened. She's physically threatened, because this is the real world. The real world is not like Barbie Land. In the real world, all women are victims. They are deep and abiding victims.
Nope. She said it feels that there's that undertone of violence, which is there. There is always the word. I mean, Always Sunny in Philadelphia had a pretty good joke about that. You know, because of the implication, there is that, like, well, if I piss this guy off too much, he might do violence to me. That does happen. And I know that, like, you're a dude who, like, goes to the gym, so you don't think about physical danger a lot, and that's kind of a benefit that you get to have that women often don't. And this is why they, like, travel in groups and always, like, and, like, have agreements with their friends of, like, if I don't call you by 9, call the cops. Like, because there is a pervasive worry of violence, irrespective of how frequently it happens, and it is a lot more frequently than you'll admit, Ben.
Of the system, as we'll learn by the use of the word patriarchy no less than 10 times in this film. She gets arrested.
Oh God,
like
they used a word
for various crimes. Even the police officers are rabid, raging sexists.
Well, if you know anything about police officers, yes, yeah.
Are hitting on Barbie. They're making observations about her appearance. Ken, meanwhile, is getting super happy because Ken, who's been sort of an underling in Barbie Land, now he's realizing he's part of the patriarchy, and the patriarchy is awesome. Ken is loving the patriarchy. Now,
Which he
you might
thoroughly
imagine at this point
misunderstands as part of the
that
joke.
the way the film is going to go is that Ken and Barbie are going to have to some sort of agreement about seeing each other as equal human beings. You might imagine that's where it's going. Wrong. That's not where the film is going to go.
Oh, it
You might-
actually does go there, by the way. Ken comes into his own by finding value in his identity in himself, where he was previously dependent on Barbie, and Barbie comes to understand herself, decides instead to be a human rather than a doll, and to fulfill her life, to have like a real life as opposed to one of plastic and like fake existence. They both come to be like actualized and like have their like they like well, I guess I don't know about equal people because Ken's still a doll, but like they get to feel good about themselves as people independent of one another.
thought that what you were going to get was Ken gets treated with respect as a person, and Barbie gets treated with respect as a person, and that's a better. Nope, wrong. In the end, not to skip ahead, Barbie.
No,
lives-
well, Ken gains self-respect, which is what he was lacking, and like respect as a person was kind of contingent at the end of the movie of like, well, moving towards a gender equal society, kind of implying like Ken will get there when women get there in the real world.
gets restored, and the men are still subservient. That's the best. That's the best version of the world. Okay, so
That's only partially true, and like again, where the movie stumbles a bit, but
Ken is walking
we've
around,
talked about
and he's
that.
really enjoying the patriarchy and all of this, and he explains that men rule this world.
And one of the things
And
he's not
he goes
gonna that Ben seems like he's not gonna mention is that when Ken finds out about patriarchy and he like thinks it's super awesome, he thinks like, oh, that means I can just like be a CEO because I'm a man or whatever, and it doesn't work that way. So like Ben is going to ignore that the movie says that it's not just this like boys club where you get to do whatever because you're a guy. Because it's going to be hard for him to reconcile that like there's nuance to the concept of patriarchy. Like, no, you don't just get wealth and power because you're a dude, but all the people with wealth and power are men, you know. And he's just not. I don't think he's going to mention that because he can't wrestle with that. He can't. It's too much nuance.
So Mattel and all the members of the board are men. By the way, I'd like to see a corporate breakdown of the Mattel board. I'll bet I can find it. Like the CEO of Mattel for 30 years was a woman, so there's that. They pretend
By the way, they mentioned that. Oh wait,
like Mattel is all run by men. So
no. So here's another where he's like lying about the movie. He says like, oh, they pretend it's all men. No, they say that they had one female CEO. But that's kind of the point, is they had one female CEO and no others.
I just now I want to know who's on the board. Okay, chairman and CEO is a dude. The board includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It includes 5 women. So
How many
6 men
people are
and
on the
5
board?
women.
Okay.
Clearly patriarchal domination. Clearly patriarchal domination.
Do you want to go? You want to go? Like, okay, so that one's pretty gender equal. That one's not bad. Do you want to go back into? Do you want to go to other corporations or in previous boards that they've had?
Just wanted to look that up just for the sake of accuracy. Whenever I do these reviews, like, oh, you're taking
One
too
company
serious.
is gender
One takes
equal,
itself
therefore there's no unequal distribution of
It
power.
pretends to be a comedy, but it's taking itself super seriously. Fine. So it's all men at the top of Mattel, and they realize that Barbie and Ken have escaped Barbie Land, and this presents some sort of threat. What kind of threat? Because the writers are shitty, they don't bother explaining.
It's a silly movie. It's not. Again, it's not trying to be like world. First of all, they do tell you what the issue is because like it's freaky for people and like they show you what happened previously, but this is worse. But also, it's a silly movie. Like, of course, if there was a Barbie Land, they wouldn't want them to get out or whatever. What's the point of a Barbie Land existing or whatever? Like, obviously, like I don't know. Like, do you need explanation? Or were you sitting there like, what problems could that possibly cause?
They're just like, a threat. And Will Ferrell acts all weird and goofy, like Will Ferrell, and he's funny because it's Will Ferrell acting.
Well,
weird and
I
goofy.
agree
He's
that Will
funny,
Ferrell's
he's
not
just
funny.
Will Ferrell with no actual plot or dialogue to speak of, just being weird.
He has a couple of lines that are like a little funny, but I agree that Will Ferrell is just not that funny. So we can move on.
There's so many places in the script where it's basically like the writers just they left a gap and they're like, we'll leave a couple asterisks, we'll fill it in later, and then later they got there and they're like, we'll just skip right over it. Fine.
I don't think that's
So
what
they figured
happened.
They got to track
But
down
also they
Barbie
filled that one
and
in.
Ken. And meanwhile,
All that note taking, you couldn't jot down the note. This is where they say why it's bad.
Barbie is trying to track down the girl who's playing with her, and she mistakenly thinks that it is a teenage girl who is playing with her and who is unhappy. And at this point, she receives a lecture from the teenage girl about how Barbie has ruined the world and actually is fascist. how Barbie is a sexualized capitalistic emblem, how Barbie has created unattainable feminine ideals, how Barbie is ruining the planet with rampant consumerism. You get like this full lecture.
So one of the things that where you can tell it's like a corporate movie is that there is this full lecture about like all the problems with Barbie, and they just move past the serious ones and get to like, no, she can be inspiring for people. They don't actually address the really pernicious accusations that are true, but they have to acknowledge them because how else do you make a Barbie movie? People have these, like, if you made a Barbie movie where none of that came up, people would find it a little weird, I think.
Right in the middle of the film. It's truly awful. It's truly awful. She's called a fascist. By the way, it only sets up the only good.
Yeah, and it's treated like this 13-year-old who doesn't know, like, she's this young teen girl. Like, young teens don't know what the hell they're talking about. They just say stuff. Even though a lot of her accusations are reasonable, a lot of her stances are accurate and reasonable criticisms, they're just brushed aside in the same vein of like, oh, okay, Barbie is fascist. I think you're supposed to be like, that's ridiculous, and hand wave it, just like you can hand wave the rest of it.
Good line of the film, truly, in my opinion, there's one good line in the film, and that is where Barbie is trying to contemplate whether she's a fascist or not, and she says, I don't control the railways or the flow of commerce. Now, there's only one problem with that line, as with the entire movie. There is no character consistency. Barbie is supposed to be an idiot bubblehead piece of plastic.
So, actually, Ben, that's a problem with you. No, she's not. In fact, one of the things that's noteworthy about Barbie from the outset is that she seems a little bit different than the other Barbies. She seems to be doing more thinking than most people in the around her. She's not super enamored with Ken. She thinks about whether she doesn't go along with what her expectations are supposed to be. She's actually not an airhead or a bimbo. But you see pretty blonde girl, and you go, well, she's supposed to be.
From Barbie Land. How does she know what a fascist is? How does she know?
Well, okay, so another thing, Ben, where your misogyny is showing a little bit. Just a little bit. They go to great lengths to point out that the Barbies are actually very smart. They have Nobel Prize winners and authors and presidents and Supreme Court justices. That's the point of the Supreme Court scene, is that they're not just pretty, they're also competent, because that's kind of the idea of these different job Barbies, is to show girls that yeah, you can be pretty and smart, and you don't have to be either, but you can be either or both, and that's okay. That's a good way to be. But you look at pretty girl must be dumb.
What about the flow of commerce? Like, again, just in terms of character consistency, like characters who actually are the characters, makes no sense whatsoever. So, meanwhile, Ken is wandering around, enjoying the patriarchy more and more.
If anything, Ken is the bimbo in this, or I guess the himbo. If anything, he's like the Kens are portrayed as much less intelligent than the Barbies consistently. So like the expectation, like, how does Barbie know what fascism is? Because the Barbies are smart. That's why. because they're not just arm candy like they're expected to be later, and like you look at them and think they are.
And he keeps asking men about the patriarchy. And at one point he asks a dude about the patriarchy, and the guy says, well, that's not really the way that it works here anymore. He says, really? He says, no, it still works that way. We just hide it really well.
Yeah.
Again,
you just can't engage. Just yep. Just dismiss out of hand because you have no way. You can't argue against the position. So instead, you just rely on your audience to agree that it's nonsense.
Even present the mild other side of the film, and this sort of nonsense continues. The first third of the film is about how Mattel is kind of bad for creating this fancy land. Second third of the film is about the real world.
I don't think that comes up at all, actually. First of all, we don't really know who comes up with the fantasy land. It just kind of exists, and it's one of those. It's probably better not to explain how we got here. It's not really necessary for the movie, and it wouldn't be helpful for them to be like, so the scientists created this parallel dimension paradox thing. Like, none of that matters. None of that matters. So no, they don't talk about how it came to be at all. It's not good. It wouldn't be helpful.
Oh, the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy.
Yes.
Culminating in an idiotic line where one of the low-level members
all right,
of
hit me.
Mattel is
What's
with the
dumb?
board, and Barbie is looking for a woman at the board, and the low-level man says, "I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman?" No, you
He's
can't
so
parallel power.
mad.
That's what makes her a woman.
He's
Okay,
so
in any case-
mad. Wait, what did he say?
No, you can't parallel park. That's what makes you a woman. Okay?
Oh, so funny. Women can't drive. Isn't he so funny? Oh, good Ben Shapiro. He's so hilarious. He made the joke about the women's being bad at driving. Laugh.
And in any case, we get here.
He even chuckled to himself. He even thought that was so clever. Oh my god, what a moron.
Obscure jokes about Proust Barbie, because again, Noah Baumbach has to show that he wrote some of the script. He made a reference to Proust. Doesn't that make him clever? Ooh. Next, he will make a reference, I would assume, to Victor Hugo. Wow. Proust. Ooh. Idiots who think they're smart. It's totally,
He's so mad that better screenwriters exist. It's so fun. It's so obvious. But Ben, stop making videos like this for real. It's so obvious to anyone who knows who you are watching that you're just mad that there are screenwriters and you didn't get to be one.
Okay, then Barbie escapes the Mattel building. They were going to package her up and they were going to send her back to Barbie Land. And she instead runs and she escapes the Mattel building. And she hooks up with America Ferrera. So America Ferrera is the actual one who's playing with Barbie as a youth. And it's her daughter who Barbie had originally approached. Twist! Okay, and she decides that in order to escape...
He can say twist like that. It's supposed to be like a very minor twist. Like the connection to the daughter is like kind of it's just like okay, a little bit of misdirection, I guess. I don't know. But also it's kind of addressing people like you who are like, well, it's for 7-year-olds because those are the people who play with Barbies. Well, no, lots of people play with Barbies. People either did when they were younger or maybe did with their kids or whatever. It's been around for more than 60 years. Lots of people have played with Barbie.
Executives, she's going to have to bring both of them back to Barbie Land. Why does she bring both of them back to Barbie Land? No one knows. There's no actual...
Well, because they're trying to fix the problem. Because they're trying to fix the problem. Because she thinks there's like a rift, and she's trying to fix that. Because she's trying to fix it.
There's no explanation as to why she's supposed to bring both of them back to Barbie Land.
She brings them there to like try to show them like the positive world she comes from. They say so out loud with words. Should have not jotted that down.
Supposedly, it's because she needs to escape back to Barbie Land, but she could do that without the two of them. But she decides she's going to bring them back. So she brings them back to Barbie Land. Meanwhile, the Mattel executives are chasing her. Now, question, why are they chasing her? They achieved their goal. Barbie's back in Barbie Land.
Well, now she's taking someone with her.
No one knows. It doesn't make any sense.
But also there's a joke in there that you'll never be able to engage with also, that the executives are actually incredibly stupid people, and that the image of them as being extremely calculated, intelligent people who always do the smart thing is a myth. You get that with Will Ferrell saying like he'd prefer to have these board meetings. Sometimes instead of a board meeting, he just wants to have everyone tickle each other because he's an idiot. It's kind of there's this trend now of dispelling the myth of the hyper competent person on top. So even if it doesn't make sense, they're portrayed as buffoons the entire time. Because that's kind of the joke.
There will be consequences you can't even imagine. And then they're like, what consequences? And they're like, fill in the blank. And some dude says something about a
yeah, because it doesn't matter,
like,
dude.
That's the laziest shitty writing. God. Okay, anyway. So Ken, in the meantime, he's already headed, while she was, futzing around over at Mattel, Ken is already headed back to to Barbie Land, where he has immediately established the patriarchy. So just to point out here, the point of the film is that the matriarchy is amazing.
Nope.
Women are amazing at everything.
I think it stumbles a little bit, but no, it's pretty clear that it's that matriarchy and patriarchy would both be bad, and that gender equality is the solution.
Walks in, and within 2 seconds, he has taken over all of Barbie Land, and he has turned.
It's a movie. Did you want that to take 30 minutes of screen time? You were mad about how long it is, that it's 2 hours. Did you want that to take a half-hour screen time to establish how he did his coup? Or did you want them to just like, okay, now we've got the next thing? Also, we don't really know how long he was there before Barbie got back.
Within 2 seconds. So apparently the women are so unbelievably competent and brilliant and
also they like have kind of a hand wavy explanation for that, where they're like, oh, it's kind of like with when the European settlers came to the Americas and like the indigenous people didn't have antibodies for things like smallpox, and so disease was like they were just more susceptible. It was kind of the joke. It's a hand wavy like this is a silly movie type joke type explanation, but as it turns out, this is a silly movie. Did you want like here were the stages of his coup. Did you want that, Ben?
Walks in and takes over the whole place inside of 2 seconds. Fine. So he takes over the entire place. We later learn that's because the women, they didn't know what was coming.
And also, like, you could argue, this is a little bit of an apologetic answer, but you could argue that Barbie being a very stereotypical character in like in the cultural milieu would very easily fall into like a patriarchal world where you're just like, well, that's the stereotype of how women should be, right? So this is how I am. Like, it doesn't get expressed in the movie, but like, who cares? Who cares then?
We later learn they didn't have immunity, and the way that they get immunity is by learning to hate the men.
Nope. So glad I watched the movie because I knew he was just gonna outright lie about it. No. The way they gain immunity, the way they're like broken out of their like trance or whatever, is by someone being open and honest about the contradictions of expectations that women are expected to live up to. So they'll say like, okay, you're supposed to, so they'll say things like, you're expected to be pretty but not care if you're pretty, and be thin but not want to be thin, and but always try to be thin. Just say you want to be healthy even though you're trying to be thin, but not want to be thin even though they want you to be thin. Like things like that. It's like all these contradictions of expectation that are spoken out loud, that are real, by the way. And then that's what breaks them out of it. It's not to hate men. It's to take issue with the contradictory expectations placed on them.
That's the way that they have to learn to hate men. Okay, so
they don't. They just don't. He literally just like lying about the movie. Ben, you took notes. Write down what happened in the movie, the thing that they actually said, what actually happened, and then maybe you'd have a vague idea of what occurred in the movie.
To establish his patriarchal system. We only learned this when
this is only one page of notes? Wait, you went there with a notepad to take notes. And we're like 2/3 of the way into the movie, and now you have that's done with the first page of notes. And you got all this shit wrong? Holy shit, man. What were you even writing? Were you just like, Barbie dumb, I did cooties, girls bad? What? I want to read those notes, is what I'm saying.
And random daughter. And Ken immediately starts acting like the jerks in the patriarchy, where he calls her baby.
Because he's supposed to be a stereotype. Okay, Ben. He's supposed to be a stereotype of that expectation, Ben. The point is that it's so superficial because he has an incredibly superficial understanding of patriarchy. It's explicit in the movie. He even at some point says that he thought that the patriarchy was about horses for a while. He's supposed to not be.
And then America Ferrera is trying to explain to Barbie what exactly is going on, and she's like, it's just like the indigenous people and smallpox. They had no immunity.
It's a throwaway explanation.
So,
what's wrong with that?
Ladies in Barbie Land had no immunity to the magic of the patriarchy. The magic. The women were seduced.
This is a world with literal magic. That people will like get into fights, or not even get into fight. They'll like do a dance off and like literally have sparkles coming out. Like it's a world of magic. It's a world of magic. It's Barbie Land. Ben, it's Barbie Land.
So, just to point out here, the actual argument the movie is making is that if women enjoy men, it's because they have been brainwashed by the patriarchy.
Nope. Actually, very much not the case, because Barbies, except for Margot Robbie, like Ken at the outset of the movie. In fact, they all think Ken is super cool. Barbie's the one person who doesn't have like a Ken that she's enamored with. It's not that hating men is good. Nobody says that. It's just your brainworms, Ben.
Message explicit in just a few minutes in the film. And when I say a few minutes, I mean several years, because this film took years off my...
But you wanted more exposition for how long you expect it to be. Also, they do not explicitly say anything of the sort. We'll get there if he says anything about it.
Life. It is long, it is boring, and it's terrible. Okay, so the Kens are about to perform... None of this makes any damn sense. Okay, the Kens are about to have a vote to change the Constitution. Why?
What do you mean, why? What do you mean, why?
Ken literally just sees power. He's a fascist.
Well, no, he's not a fascist. No one says fascist after the one time the word happens, or I guess twice. Like, no, he's not a fascist. But also, because he doesn't actually have the levers of government, like the Barbies are still the Supreme Court and the president and all that.
Vote for. Why are they voting? Like,
Also,
he sees power.
it's a silly world. It's Barbie Land. Even if it didn't make sense, it doesn't matter.
What is the breakdown demographically of the Kens and the Barbies? Are there as many Kens as Barbies? Because why would they hold a vote? The Kens appear to be in a minority in Barbie Land.
Actually, no, they don't appear to. It's not clear how many Kens or Barbies there are. There's not really a. You can imply maybe they're a minority because just like Ken is superfluous and it's Barbie that is like the main. But like the whole idea behind their vote is also that the Barbies are currently like brainwashed and subservient, so they're not going to go vote anyway.
Barbies than Kens. So if that's the case, why even do the democratic vote thing? Why not just seize the power? Because then you wouldn't.
That is how you seize the power, Ben. Oh, I forgot. Ben is also politically brain dead. I forget. He thinks that fascism never is just like a coup, and that's the only way you can fascism. Ben, Hitler was elected. Elections can be used towards authoritarian ends, like every time you vote.
The rest of the dumb plot of this stupid film. So they decide they're going to hold the vote, and not only are they going to hold the vote, they're going to be very fair about it. They're going to hold it in 48 hours. They're going to hold it in a couple of days to make sure that the Barbies have time to actually form a counter plan. Why would they do that? No reason.
Maybe that's just how the world works. You want them to be like, well, the law stipulates that every vote can only be held at these junctures. Do you want them to break that down, Ken? Why are you getting mad at like, oh, it's 48 hours? Also, it wouldn't matter if it was the next day because as far as what we see on screen, the like oh shit, what did I do? The counter plan doesn't take that long to enact.
This dumbass vote. And the Barbies learn about this, and as many Kens have time to actually form a counter plan. Why would they do that? No reason. Asterisk, we'll fill it in later. Okay, so they decide they're going to hold this dumbass vote. And the Barbies learn about this, and Barbie is very depressed, because Barbie realizes that all the other Barbies have been taken in by the patriarchy, and this is extremely bad.
Well, actually, no, she just kind of has like an existential crisis that has to do with a lot of stuff.
One place where you have a serious continuity error in the film. So, Margot Robbie, who plays Barbie at the beginning, half the time she plays Barbie is kind of stiff like a doll, and half the time she plays Barbie is just kind of normal. And so now she plays it super stiff like a doll. She sits down, in kind of 90-degree position like a Barbie would, and she keels over in the 90-degree position. And it would be funny, except she hasn't been doing it the whole time. And
he's mad about this. Just want everyone to be aware he's mad about this. By the way, that's not a continuity error. A lot of the reason why that happens has to do with the fact that she is becoming more or less an actual person, and like at the point of existential crisis and maximum uncertainty, she reverts to like being a doll, and it is as far from actualization as possible. It's actually not a problem, but this is what he's mad about.
The level of inconsistency and bad filmmaking here is just off the chart. They needed somebody to actually sit down with them and be an adult in the room, and no one was there.
Oh,
so,
the irony.
At this point, America Ferrera and daughter decide they've given up on Barbie because Barbie won't fight for herself. And so they take off. And Michael Cera, for no reason, is in this film. And he's in the back of the car, and we don't know why.
It's not for no reason. There's a doll called Alan. If I'm not mistaken, there is like he's based on an actual doll. There was like Alan, Ken's friend or whatever. It's not. I mean, it's a little superfluous, but there's a reason.
Confused about that.
And he serves no purpose other than to have a random fight scene, and also so that they can make a Trump building the wall reference.
Is that a Trump building the wall?
Apparently, the Kens are going to build a wall to keep people from getting in or getting out. Now,
I don't know if that's a Trump building the wall reference. I think that's just building a wall. Not all walls are Trump's wall. I don't know if you're aware.
Here's the weird part. No one has ever entered or exited Barbie Land before. Why are you building a wall? What is...
Ben, because people have been entering and exiting the whole movie. Because even if this is new, it's now happening. What the hell are you talking about? Also, it's explicitly not true. Someone had left before. This was why they knew that it was bad that Barbie got out, because someone had gotten out before. But even still, people have been doing it all movie.
Is the necessity for a wall. No one explains. It's just a dumb Trump reference.
It's not a Trump reference, I don't think.
Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig can laugh and nod, like the morons they are. And so,
okay, buddy.
The daughter and the mom, they decide, no, we have to go back and we have to save Barbie Land. They're going to save Barbie Land. And who do they go to? They go to wise, weird lesbian Barbie.
Is she lesbian? Wait, what the fuck? What is with your like you gotta shoehorn the LGBTQ hatred into this? Is she lesbian? Like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. It's not really relevant.
Kate McKinnon, and they ask her about this, and they bring Barbie with them, and they're going to try.
Barbie's in the movie, by the way, remarkably sexless. They even have a line about not having genitals. Incidentally, that leads to another joke that exists in the movie that he refused to acknowledge, where Ken is like, "I have all the genitals," trying to like seem manly or whatever.
Stop the Kens from winning the vote. Now, you might say to yourself, "Wait, aren't the women majority? Do they not have agency? The women? They have no agency apparently."
Not when they're brainwashed, Ken or Ben, excuse me.
So apparently the women have no agency, and they are a majority, and yet they have to be deprogrammed. They're going to be deprogrammed by weird Barbie and her crazy cadre.
Can he really not grasp the concept that like when the movie is saying they're brainwashed and subservient and they're just following orders about what they're supposed to be doing from their respective Kens, so it wouldn't matter if they're a majority because they're not going to go vote, or if they do, they'll vote in line with their man.
Of feminist heroes.
I love you guys.
And this is when we start getting into the real. You think it's propagandistic so far? Oh man, wait. Here is where we get into like the real meat of it. Okay.
So by the way, Ben says propagandistic. What he means is has a message that he doesn't like. For what it's worth, like the movie just has things it's trying to say, and you don't like those things that it's trying to say. Doesn't make it propaganda. You make propaganda, Ben. This movie is just a movie with a message.
Okay, so we end up with Barbie complaining. She's complaining to weird Barbie. And she says, "Oh my God, they've brainwashed all the other Barbies. They've brainwashed all the other Barbies." She says, quote, "Either you're brainwashed or you're weird and ugly. There is no in between." And weird Barbie says, "Tell me about it." And this is the perspective of the film. Either you're a third wave feminist kook.
Ben, media understander extraordinaire, looks at a movie where a character is at their lowest point, having an existential crisis, is giving up on the world and everything, says something that makes no sense, and is like this strict dichotomy, and he says that is what the movie is saying is true. Do I need to explain that? Is anyone in chat confused about why that makes no sense? Ben, that's the view of the world we're supposed to reject, buddy. We're supposed to say that's not true, and Barbie's is just down right now, and that's how she thinks the world is, but she's wrong. It's better than that.
Who hates men, truly hates men.
No. Nobody hates men in this.
Hi, Ken.
There's no in between. There's no actual relationship between men and women. There can't be any sort of fulfilling relationship between men and women.
So again, that's a thing the movie is explicitly opposed to in principle, and in fact is encouraging that men and women should, like the Kens should not need the Barbies to be happy with themselves, and they should have better relations than they had.
There are no decent males in the entire film. All men are garbage. The only man who even appears
not really
mildly,
true. They're like, no, that's. The men are mostly like himbos and just kind of stereotype. Like they're kind of jokey characters, but also Ken, the main Ken, the Ryan Gosling Ken, has like again his moment of redemption where he comes to appreciate being him.
Is America Ferrer's husband, who's just kind of a joke. He's there for literally 10 seconds in the film, making jokes about how he can't speak Spanish. That's his whole role.
Yeah, he's not really a character.
Every other man is a piece of shit in the film. Everyone.
That's also not true.
And so, this is the perspective of the film when you come right down to it. Either you are brainwashed or you are weird and ugly. And Barbie's like, that's what Barbie says. I mean,
that's what Barbie says, and then is argued with and told she's wrong.
Male is Alan, who apparently wants to our paying.
Oh,
probably is supposed to be.
So you admit that not every man in the movie is a piece of shit. All right.
Gay. I mean, I think it's supposed to be pretty clear.
Is he gay? Well, I mean, maybe as an implication because he's like supposed to be Ken's good friend or whatever. But like, that's by no means explicit.
Well, really, the take of the film is that all the Kens are gay. That's really the take of the film. It's
they're all gay. That's why they all want Barbie. What?
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
In any case, the filmmakers are so insecure with even their own script
that
they then have the
they're insecure
in to say Margot Robbie might not be the best person to make this point, right? Because Barbie's saying, I don't feel beautiful anymore. And they're like, Margot Robbie. They literally jet in to say, Margot Robbie.
Yeah, it's actually very funny when they do that.
Then maybe you shouldn't have written the point.
Ben, people feel that way. people often feel the way that that Barbie expressed. But then the movie was like making a joke about like, okay, but Margot Robbie is gorgeous, so this doesn't really work. But it's a joke because the point is, well, one, even if you are very attractive, a lot of times women feel that they're not because the expectations on them are so ridiculous. But the point, like, even if she weren't gorgeous, like, you might look at her and be like, well, obviously she's gorgeous, so then therefore this doesn't make any sense. And so they're making a joke about that of like, okay, well, like, we get it, but still people feel this way, and then she's then repudiated.
Then maybe you shouldn't write it like that. Maybe you should not be a writer. Maybe you could do that. Okay.
Yeah, Ben, I agree.
Okay,
Maybe you
this is
should
when we
not be a
get
shit
the
writer.
full bore thesis of the film. And guess what, guys? The thesis of the film, made by women, made for women, made starring women, funded by a studio that is largely staffed by men. The take of the film is that it is impossible to be a woman in the modern age. Absolutely impossible. And so we get this long speech of America.
I like how he's just like the way he's phrasing it is like it's obviously ridiculous, but the movie is explicit about the contradictions, and I think he's about to get into it. About the like, it is actually literally impossible to conform to all the expectations placed on women.
Talking about how it's so difficult to be a woman. They want us to be this way, but not that way. They want us to be thin, but they don't want us to say that we're thin. They want us to earn money, but they don't want us to earn money. They want us to do this, and they don't want us to do that.
And you're just acting like it's ridiculous. What's wrong with what's incorrect?
Men. They want us to do this, and they don't want us. Oh my God, it's so difficult to be a woman. It's the same tried, truistic bullshit that they've been propagating.
It's just bullshit.
New wave feminist film for the last 45 years in the United States is now essentially.
So what they're saying is wrong. Do you want to express how it's wrong?
Including a few cutaway shots of Margot Robbie looking up adoringly at America Ferrera as she explains that it's super hard to be a woman. It's so damn difficult to be a woman. You know why? Because of the patriarchy. Because of the men. That's the actual story.
Well, no, not the men, but also notice again how he doesn't have a reason why it's wrong. It's just like, oh, they keep saying it. Maybe there's a reason they keep saying it, Ben. Maybe they have a point. I'm just throwing it out there. I know it's wacky.
Of the film. And then they make a couple of other dumb references, right? The Zack Snyder cut. The men, they like the Zack Snyder cut. Wow, that's terrible. Okay, fine.
For what it's worth, it was, in my experience, mostly men who were obsessed with it, and that I'm going out there. The Zack Snyder cut was fucking ass. It was 5 hours, and it didn't need to be. They simply put every scene they shot into the movie so that every viewer will watch it and go, hey, that scene was good and should have been in. I guess Zack Snyder was right. Even though, no, the Zack Snyder cut isn't even really a cut. It's fucking garbage.
Fine. Then they say, you know what we need to do? We need to disabuse all of these Barbies of the patriarchy. How are we going to do this? We need to allow them to live with the cognitive dissonance required
to make explicit an understanding of that cognitive dissonance, to bring it out into the open, basically saying that like feminism as a concept is necessary.
That's a line from Barbie. Now again, they keep doing this. They keep having Barbie drop these extremely literate and well-articulated lines, but she's supposed to be a plastic doll.
No, she's not supposed to be a plastic idiot.
Not from the threat of force.
It's so confusing to him that Barbie is smart because he's assuming that she's pretty, so she must be a moron. But no, the whole movie, Barbie is smart. She's just naive at times, but also like comes from a plastic world where things are very different.
Doesn't matter. What is their actual strategy? So they have 48 hours to stop this vote, which shouldn't be happening in the first place because it makes no plot sense. Because the men are fascists and the women are victims. But somehow they've been given 48 hours to stop the vote. So what are they going to do to stop this vote? How are they going to do it? Well, they're going to separate the men and the women. They're going to turn all the Barbies against the Kens. It's so subtle. The symbolism is so subtle.
So actually what they do is they cause infighting with the men. They prey on their emotional vulnerabilities to get them jealous of each other and to infight, which is a pretty good parallel for how women are often divided and encouraged to be like really catty and stuff. But no, they don't divide the men and the women and have them fight. They encourage infighting amongst the men.
All the women against the men, and you will save society.
No, they don't turn the women against the men.
Shoveling directly into
and I think the movie could have done a little bit better of a job to have the Barbies like kind of feel bad about like their emotional manipulation. To like show, but that was just me personally. This is more like I don't know. They were pretty emotionally manipulative to the Kens in their plan, and like I would have liked an understanding from the movie that like that kind of sucks, but like even if they say it was necessary.
8-year-old girl, if you so choose, this weekend.
Maximum volume.
So, they
I don't know what
literally
the
say
fuck
this:
that was
get the Barbies away from their Kens. How are they going to achieve this? Well, they're going to make the men complacent and then take their power. This is how women have achieved power. Now, let me just digress briefly.
So, but I don't know if he's gonna go into it, but what they do is they get the men talking about some inane bullshit that they're super into, or like the tropes about how men will like either mansplain or talk down to or like infantilize women by like, oh, let me show you how to do this sport, or let me talk to you about like let me teach you how to do Photoshop or whatever. Kind of what Ben was doing a little bit, the assumption that they're incompetent. He was assuming that Barbie was an idiot. Or just get them talking about something they're interested in so that you can get their Barbie away from them for 2 minutes to basically tell them about how contradictory their expectations are.
Here, in how women actually achieved power in Western civilization. The answer is that they lobbied men and men gave it to them.
That's what?
That is the actual answer as to how women achieved power in Western civilization. The amendment to the Constitution that allowed women to vote was passed solely by men because...
Ben, what's being referenced there? The making explicit of the contradictory nature of women's roles and like how difficult it is a stand-in for feminism. So yeah, feminism, especially first wave feminism, was responsible for women's suffrage. That's why like we had the suffragette movement and all that, Susan B. Anthony, all that thing. Yes, it was passed by men because women did not have power. But the rallying, the social power to get that kind of change made was done through feminism.
Women couldn't vote. It turns out there are a lot of good-hearted men out there who like women and who want women to be able to live lives that they want.
But it doesn't it suck a little bit that marginalized people need to rely on the powerful to give them equal rights? Like, doesn't it a little bit suck? Especially then, like, do you disagree that it sucked that only men had the power to give women the right to vote? Shouldn't they have had it from the outset? This is the kind of thing that needs to be alleviated, but you fight against constantly, Ben.
It turns out that many of us are husbands and fathers. Many of us have daughters.
Yeah, but you've demonstrated that you personally have a very dim view of women throughout your analysis here. So I don't know that talking about us as husbands and fathers is really the best way of defending yourself.
Of the people we're married to. It turns out that actually describes a huge number of Western men, that we are not your enemies.
No, and the movie doesn't think they are. By the way, again, Ken is not the villain of the movie. Patriarchy is. He simply falls into it. But when he is not an agent of patriarchy, the movie says he should be able to actualize himself. He should find value in himself for being who he is. That he should have the self-confidence, self-respect, and self-identity irrespective of, without needing Barbie to validate him. So, yeah, the movie agrees with this, Ben. I don't know.
Actually,
he has no media literacy, I guess.
Women seize the power away from the men. I'm sorry to break
more
it to you,
accurately
it
prevent themselves from
true.
being written out of
this
government.
This notion that women vote as a bloc is not true.
No, because... Okay, so Ben, another thing the movie was doing that you seemed really unclear about is that in the Barbie world, women are supposed to be the equivalent of men in the real world. And that the Kens, the men in the Barbie world, are the equivalent of women. And so how do they get the Kens to not vote? They encourage infighting. And there's like, they literally are fighting against each other on the beach. They encourage disagreement and cattiness and fighting and bickering and conflict within the group to divide them and keep them from acting as a block and like using that power to benefit themselves. That's kind of the point.
Married women vote very much like their husbands, actually. Single women vote more like a bloc now than they did before.
Okay.
But it turns out that people are individuals, and some women vote one way, and some men vote another way. But again, the idea here is very simplistic: men versus women.
No, it's not that.
And that's what this literally turns into, a battle royale between the women and the men. But really,
so he says that. Were you watching the movie? it's a battle between the Kens. The big battle at the end is between the Kens and other Kens. The women do not participate in any fighting. You even showed it on screen, Ben. How are you so media illiterate that you cannot observe what's happening on screen and it is stated explicitly?
It's about getting the men to fight each other. They bring all the Barbies.
Oh,
one by
so
one.
you're
They
admitting
distract
that
them. They
men
bring
are
the
fighting
Barbies
each
one
other.
by one, and they unbrainwash them. How do they unbrainwash them? Well, they tell them truths like any power you have must be masked under a giggle. I have a question. I mean, I work with a lot of women. Do
I
they
don't
feel like
believe
the
that.
power that they have has to be masked under a giggle? Was this film written in 1943? Who wrote this film? Well, we know who wrote this film. A feminist writer who gets paid millions of dollars to make horse. One of them says, you have to reject
He's
men's
so
advances
mad that people get to be successful screenwriters and he's not one of them.
without damaging their ego. Or, theoretically, you could just reject men's advances and damage their ego, because what do you care? You have to pretend to be
What do you mean, what do you care? All of your bosses are men. If they don't like you because they think you're a bitch, you're not going to get ahead. This is a well-noted problem.
confused about money. Is this a real thing? Like, do women pretend to be confused about money so that men will explain it to them?
Someone should tell him.
This is
Someone should tell him.
Such a claptrap. And then my very favorite. Do you want some pants?
It's a well-known thing, by the way, that, yeah, women will pretend to be a lot less intelligent because men like feeling smarter.
That's really what this is about, is women really, really want to wear pants. That demonstrates the power of the patriarchy is that men really don't want women to wear pants, and women really, really want to wear pants.
So it was that, okay, so remember, Barbie is a stereotypical icon, is like representation of like gender roles in a lot of cases, and it was kind of a big deal when Barbie had her first outfit with pants. It was kind of a big thing. And it wasn't, do Barbies generally want to wear pants? They asked the astrophysicist Barbie. Basically, the implication being, hey, you don't, we know you prefer wearing pants. Do you want to do that? Do you want that freedom?
Love your leg warmers.
Nice ass cut.
And then it's, all the men being victimized, all the Kens being victimized by these various tactics, up to and including Ryan Gosling hitting on a trans woman, meaning a dude who has a voice deeper than Ryan Gosling's, which is an actual scene in the film.
Wow, dude. Wow, Ben. Just let's get some trans bashing while we're in there, I guess.
It's just great. Okay, so then, final step. Finally, the women have been disabused. So now they're going to play the ultimate prank. The ultimate prank is that they are going to turn the men against each other. How are they going to turn the men against each other? They're going to turn the men against each other by switching partners.
Jealousy is the
They're going
point.
to get together.
Jealousy.
Barbie is going to be with Ken, classic Barbie and classic Ken. They're going to be together, but then they're going to move on to the other Kens, and the Kens are going to start fighting each other
Yes.
over the ladies.
Yep.
Because they're going to switch over. Now, not to put too fine a point on this, but this makes no sense at all.
Jealousy as a concept doesn't make sense to you, Ben? Jealousy. That one's confusing. You don't get that one? All right.
Because guess what would happen?
Who am I to
if
argue?
a bunch of beautiful women decided to switch to other men simultaneously? You know what the men would do? They would throw a party. So they
2 minutes ago, he was talking about how individuals are different, but no, all men hate the people they're with and want to be with other people. No, Ben, jealousy is the thing. It's a pretty big thing, and you notice the Kens even don't really pay much attention to the fact that another Barbie has sat down next to them. Instead, they only notice the one that left them, because as it turns out, they're not interchangeable pieces. You can't just be like, well, one woman's as good as any other. Maybe that's how you think about the world, Ben. But no, as it turns out, people like the people they're with for who they are. So yeah, jealousy, real thing that happens in the real world and exists. I don't really know how to tell you. Yeah.
They turn the men against each other. And then we get a 20-minute long segment of the Kens fighting each other using various implements.
Oh, also, this isn't a world where, first of all, the Kens are kind of himbos. They're actually not that smart. And on top, and it's also a plastic Barbie world. And on top of that, the movie has explicitly said that Ken only feels like he exists, he only really has a good day if Barbie acknowledges him. And it seems like each Ken has an associated Barbie. So when the Barbie that Ken is looking for validation from goes to someone else, it doesn't matter that another one is sitting next to him. That's the thing that makes that Barbie acknowledging him is the thing that makes his day worthwhile.
It's ranging from small bows and arrows with sticky cups at the end.
It's a joke fight.
To tennis rackets, and that turns into a musical number.
Yep, because it's a silly joke movie. I don't know what to tell you.
What does any of this have to do with the plot? Nothing. Literally nothing. It's just a 15-minute digression because they wanted to insert a crappy musical number.
So, by the way, the musical number speaks to Ken's emotional state, and it's actually pretty important. But I guess Ben, consummate media, an analyst, not familiar with the concept of emotional states.
With not particularly good dancing. And then what are the women doing during this time? The women are voting. The women are voting. So now we know the Democratic turnout strategy. The Democratic turnout strategy in 2024 is going to be to get all of the Republicans to fight with one another using tennis rackets while they go and they do the voting.
So I don't know if, Ben, I don't know if anyone told you, most screenwriters are not political strategists because, well, unlike you, they're actually screenwriters and are good at that, and political strategy is not the thing they do. Instead, no, this movie is about what happened in the Barbie world, not here's the Democrats telling you their plan for 2024. Also, the assumption that all the men are Republican is really weird, and that all the women are Democrat. It's very strange. I thought you were saying a few minutes ago they don't vote as a bloc. Ben, I'm not really getting where you're coming from here.
So they go and they vote. After they vote, they reestablish exactly basically how it was.
Yeah, this is where I think it stumbles. But they say they like give lip service a little bit later to things are going to be different going forward.
Matriarchy. The matriarchy is reestablished. And
what are these random terrible ass edits? Goddamn.
Who is now really
Hello,
sad
fellow kids.
He's lost his power, and all he wanted in the first place was just to be treated decently by Barbie.
Yep.
Is he treated decently at the end by Barbie? Of course he isn't.
Kind of.
That would be silly. At the very end.
Actually, I guess no. He's not treated like decently by Barbie. Instead, she shows him that he shouldn't need her to treat him decently. And like that's kind of better than me. Like, no, I'm not gonna date you because I'm not into you, but I'm going to show you that I'm gonna engage with you emotionally to the point where you can understand that me dating you shouldn't be the make or break of your life.
He is told that he needs to learn to live without Barbie.
Yeah, he needs to love himself.
I am without you.
You're Ken.
But it's Barbie and Ken. There is no just Ken.
He, who was literally created as a doll to be with Barbie, he needs to learn to be apart from Barbie, and she needs to learn to.
He needs to learn to be a person unto himself, to not rely on his partner for validation of his existence. Yeah, lots of people need to understand that.
Him, because atomistic isolation and loneliness is the best way to find fulfillment.
No, it's not isolation and loneliness. It's just like she's not into him. There should be no reason why she should be forced to be with him. But as long as he's not with anyone, he should still be able to feel good about himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, it'll be best for Ken if he never sees Barbie again. It'll be better for Barbie
No,
if she never sees Ken.
She's not into him, Ben. God damn it! Like I don't think he gets that. She's not into him, and that's okay. She doesn't have to be. They shouldn't be like forced to be together. And as long as they're not together, Ken should still be able to exist authentically without Barbie there to justify his existence.
Ken again. Secular humanism is at its finest. We've reached the apotheosis.
What? First of all, what the fuck do you mean secular humanism? We're not talking about humans, we're talking about dolls, but I guess it is humanistic, I guess. No, it has nothing to do with humanism. And then the secular part, this is not a movie that relates to religiosity in any way, Ben. But of course, he brings all his bugbears into the movie with him and assumes they're there on screen because he's mad.
Don't belong together. They belong very, very much apart.
People who, as it turns out, if one person doesn't want to be in a relationship with another person, they don't belong together. Actually, that is true. People shouldn't be in relationships with people they don't want to be in relationships with. Yeah, I actually agree with that. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Actually, yeah, that seems fine.
By Issa Rae calling somebody a mother. Again, perfect for your 7-year-old girl who loves.
So they bleep that, and so the 13-year-old in the audience, because remember it's a PG-13 movie, will hear that and be like, they said a swear word, but I can't. I mean, first of all, they know what the word is, but even if they don't know what the word is, they'd be like, I don't know what the swear was, but they said a swear. Isn't that funny?
Just perfect for her.
Oh, and by the way, PG-13 movies are allowed to have up to one F-bomb, and they don't even use it. They bleep it.
And so we learn that men and women are supposed to be separate. They are not supposed
Nope.
to be together.
Actually, very
And that
explicitly
maybe
said the
the
other
Shrek will
opposite.
allow the men not to be on the Supreme Court of Barbie Land, but maybe they can get some lower circuit court judgeships. This is what we learned.
Is he going to say
and
it?
we learn one day the Kens
Nope, he's
might
just going to move past the point of that line. The point of that line is that it's immediately followed with, you can have a similar amount of power in the courts as women do in the real world. The point is that the expectation for the Barbie world to be like completely gender equal, it is going to be contingent on the real world being gender equal. And that is a good thing to want, but since we don't have it in the real world, the Barbies won't have it in the Barbie world. I think that's a little bit of a stumble, to be fair, and I've mentioned this. But no, there's a point to that line, not just like, nah, fuck men. That's not what they're saying.
have as much power and influence in Barbie world as women have in the real world.
Oh, he does say it.
Because,
Okay.
of course, women are again, just absolutely subjugated in the real world.
How many women are on the Supreme Court, Ben? How many women are on the Supreme Court? 2 out of 9? Interesting.
You think that's the end of the movie? Wrong. This thing has more endings than Lord of the Rings. So, ending number 1 is we find out that Ken.
That's also not true. It has like 2.5 endings, and like they make sense. It doesn't feel like it's dragging on.
In being Ken. Ugh, the utter joy of self-exploration. Next.
I like how he's
ending.
scoffing at the concept of like of self exploration and like self-validation.
In which the CEO of Mattel, who's been completely sidelined. You remember the CEO of Mattel? Remember he was supposed to be chasing them into Barbie Land for no apparent reason? So he's now in Barbie Land. We don't know why he's there or what he's there to do.
Well, we know.
We need Will Ferrell in the movie to provide no laughs. He doesn't provide any laughs.
Well,
so he shows up.
Will Ferrell's not funny.
His motivation throughout this movie has been completely inconsistent. He started off wanting to put Barbie
He's supposed
back
to
in
be a
Barbie Land so that they
dipshit.
can make money. And then he is told at one point that when Kens have taken over Kendom, they will make just as much money. He's like, no, that cannot be. I'm an ideologue on behalf of women. And then he arrives, and he is told that America Ferrera wants to make ordinary Barbie, which, by the way, would sell 0. Anyway.
By the way, if I'm not mistaken, Ordinary Barbie exists, and it would absolutely sell very well, because people will see that and be like, oh, it's like me. I want my kid to grow up with a realistic view of how people are. You're like, no, it would absolutely sell.
He's back to being uber capitalist. Evil capitalist. He's making money off of Barbie.
No, no one said evil. No one said evil, but yeah, he's capitalist. He's a CEO. He's gonna go where the money leads him. You think that's a good thing? Why are you mad about it?
Mattel are bad guys, but they're also the good guys. They're kind of the bad guys, but they're mostly the good. But they're a little bad.
Yeah, because the movie. Okay, so Ben, this is where critical analysis. This is gonna be way too hard for you, but we're gonna go there anyway. The movie was funded by Mattel. They're not going to let Mattel look like uber villains. It's just not gonna happen. Not going to let that happen. But the filmmaker probably doesn't think they're the good guys, and so is trying to make as much of an implication that they're kind of shitty as they can, without tripping without tripping any red flags with the studio, so that they won't get mad that you're making them look bad. All right, with Mattel.
That's
right?
ending number 2 at this point. So we have the Barbie Ken ending. We have the CEO of
No, this
Mattel
is all part
ending.
of the same scene. This is not multiple endings.
Barbie, and then girls all over the world will know that ordinariness is fine and okay, because it's not that girls play with Barbie because they think that she's beautiful and it's aspirational. No, it's bad. Okay,
well, it's not aspirational. It has been well worn. Like, Barbie's proportions are literally impossible. It's literally impossible to look like that. It's not aspirational. It's unreasonable. But also, if it's supposed to be an affirming, like, positive icon, then showing that real women, average women, are awesome, it's pretty cool, actually. I like that. I like when people feel like they're pretty cool to be who they are and don't feel like they have to be this unattainable thing to be worthwhile. And like, don't you think it'd be kind of cool to be like, this is dull and it kind of looks like my mom? Like, that's kind of neat. I don't know.
Then we have ending number 3. You think you're done?
Or it looks
Wrong.
like me.
We're now 2 hours
you know?
deep into this piece of shit. And we have now dug halfway to China, and we are going to keep digging. So,
what?
we have
Wait, what?
Rhea Perlman
Dug to
shows
China.
up to lecture us all about the patriarchy again. We haven't heard it enough. We gotta beat this
I
sucker
don't
into-
think... No, she doesn't lecture about patriarchy at all. She's like seen as this like kind of like the mother of Barbie figure who like... Because she plays the creator of Barbie, or like the ghost of the creator of Barbie, and just instead is talking to Barbie about like the positive that Barbie can bring to the
To the
world.
ground. We are going to take an axe, the blunt end of the axe, and we're just going to beat this thing to death.
But of course, like Ben
We're
can't
just
see
gonna beat it to
anything
death.
past
So,
this, right?
Rhea
Like he
Perlman
heard the
shows
word
up because
patriarchy and he
Barbie, it
assumes
turns
every
out,
sentence in the
she
movie is
spent too
about
much
it.
time in the real world. That was the patriarchy was terrible. So terrible that she wanted to stop it from happening in Barbie Land. But now she wants to go back there because she actually learned some feelings over in the
Because she
real world.
became
So she decided
because she came to be pretty human. She wasn't this like plastic plastic fake simulacra of human. She became like she started to have understandings of like feelings and change, and like wasn't happy with the life she used to have. In fact, it's pretty quick into the movie that she seems to not be on board with how things are in Barbie Land as much as everyone else is.
decides that after all, this whole story was just Pinocchio. That she just wants to be a real boy. And in what can only be termed a sort of bait and switch, at the
Is it a
very
bait and
end of the
switch?
film, just to please the core audience, which is moms and daughters, they insert a bunch of footage, I kid you not, like home video footage of moms and daughters playing. That's what it is. Like people living their lives.
Did
in
he not
female
understand
ways.
the point of that?
Because
Oh,
Rhea Perlman is going to show Barbie what it's like to be a human, and then Barbie is going to say that she really wants to be a human.
She's showing her the breadth of human experience, of emotion and feelings, and like, yes, it's home movies because it's supposed to be like the real world. It's not edited for the screen. It's supposed to be like this is the experiences that people go through. Okay.
Just like
We're
you,
almost done,
just
folks.
like
We're
you.
almost
And so they
through
hit you with
this.
the
Jesus Christ,
nostalgia
Ben.
part.
This is
The
worse
very
than I
end, the
thought.
whole movie, which should have been nostalgia and about moms and daughters, instead
It
the
should
entire
have been nostalgia and about moms and daughters. Why can't it be something that the filmmaker wanted it to be and not what you wanted it to be, Ben?
movie is not that. The entire movie
No, it
is
has
instead
to be
about
what
how
I
men are
want.
evil and terrible. And also
No.
Mattel is evil and terrible.
So again, it's not about how men are evil. It's about how patriarchy is a problem. Men are actually kind of shown to not really be the villains as much as they represent, as much as they are doing like are in positions of antagonism. They're not really the villains of the movie.
Terrible. And then
Even
at the very
Ken's
end,
not really
they
a
shove
villain.
in this little nostalgia play in the hope that they can buy back the audience at the very end of the film. And Barbie decides that she is going to be a real woman now. Now, when she goes, that's ending number 3. There's still one more. So, when that
So this
happens,
is, by the way, the first 2 endings he's talking about. They're all in one scene that lead into this scene. It's not like the movie ends and then you get this extra scene. It's like we are having this conversation, then Ruth shows up. That's the creator of Barbie. He says like, Barbie, come walk with me as we have a talk. Then it leads into this scene where she shows all these emotions or whatever. It's like it's leading into it. These are not separate endings.
when she goes to when she goes into this white area that's supposed to be heaven,
It's not supposed to be heaven. It's just supposed to be a liminal space. It's not.
the person who she's talking, Rhea Perlman, is actually the person who actually created the doll. And we're supposed to be this was supposed to be a secret. Is the Mattel was run by men, but the big secret all along is that a woman created the doll. News.
It's not a secret.
It's not a secret.
It's not a secret. It's just something that the audience gets hinted at, but if you don't know, you're gonna learn later. It's not a secret. It's just a background part of the world that didn't matter yet.
She was CEO of the company for 30 years. CEO of Mattel for 30 years, from like 1945 to 1975.
And then
Until the
never
IRS caught her for
another
tax
woman
evasion or
again.
something.
Yeah,
The
and they
big reveal
mentioned the tax evasion,
that
by the way.
patriarchy said that it created Barbie. It didn't. No one thought the patriarchy created Barbie.
No one in the movie said that it. No one says that.
Again, don't bother with the facts. Don't bother with sense. Don't bother with.
You know what, Ben? You clearly have taken your own advice of not bothering with facts.
You don't bother, none of it matters. So, Barbie is now sent back to the real world, and she is now going to experience the apotheosis of what it means to be a human woman. So we've learned early on in the movie.
So,
when
okay,
she
well,
goes to
he's
the
about
real
to say
world,
some
she's catcalled
dumb
by a bunch
shit.
of the construction guys, and she says, "I don't have a vagina." And she, again, amazing line for your 7-year-old girl. She'll love it.
First of all, 7-year-olds have vaginas. I don't know if you know. I don't know if you know that. And usually they're aware. Most of the time, they know that they have a vagina. Not sure if you're clear on that. That's not like news. Also, it's PG-13.
So apparently, when she is turned into a real woman, she has now grown a vagina. So
Yeah,
the first
because
thing
she's
that
not a
she does
plastic
is
doll
she goes to
anymore.
the gynecologist. Because ladies, the apotheosis of your being is not motherhood.
It's not apotheosis. It's just we're seeing a day in, like, now we're seeing her, like, getting psyched up for going to, like, doing real person things. And yeah, it's like trivial and mundane, but it's a part of life, and that's the exciting part to Barbie. It's like this is a thing she's never done before, and now she's a real person, and now she's doing real person things, and that's exciting. And the gynecologist thing is a kind of a joke of like, oh yeah, because real people have genitals and dolls tend not to.
We got rid of that at the very beginning. And it's not being a wife or a partner because women are supposed to be apart from men.
No. It's because to boil womanhood down to being in a relationship with someone is kind of a thing that the movie was opposed to. You can be in a relationship, and most Barbies have a Ken, but she wasn't into Ken, and it'd be kind of wacky to be like, oh, here she is in the real world, she's with this dude now. That'd be a little weird, right?
It is your vagina.
No, it's not your vagina. It's doing.
It is that you go to the gynecologist. Ladies, this
It's
is what
doing
makes
real
you
human
the
things
most
because she was once a doll.
human you can be, is that you go to the gynecologist. Now, I could point out here that that's really transphobic. That according to the same people who made this
What?
movie,
You would like that then, but also no. It's that she's a real human now. God damn it. All right.
not all women have vaginas, and not all people with penises are men. I could point that out right here, because
You
it
are
obviously
pointing it out,
conflicts
but
with
also
people.
no, it's not because they're not saying that is the epitome of womanhood. They're saying that is an aspect of being a real person when she was once a doll, and she happens not to be trans. I don't know if you know, most people aren't trans. So, and also some number of trans ladies have vaginas too. So, it'd be a little weird to be like, nah, that's transphobic because that's not a trans thing. Like that, it's so nonsense.
The very ending of the film. But instead, I'm going to go with this one. At the end of all of this, they've boiled down. They have a whole conversation about identity and death and meaning. Right? This whole conversation. What does it boil down to at the very end? What it boils down to at the very end, apparently, is being biologically female is the only thing that matters.
I mean, to you agree with that, but no, that's not what they're saying. So that scene at the end is kind of like it's the equivalent of an after credit scene. It's not really relevant to the movie. It's kind of like the denouement, right? Like it's the story is over. Now we see Barbie living her life after the events of the story that we just watched. And it's not that it's the most important thing. It's just, again, that she is she's doing things that humans do that she, previously having been a doll, would not have done before. She just as easily could have been like, I don't know, eating breakfast, and that would have been like the thing, you know? But it's harder to show that, and it's a little less funny given the whole joke about Barbies not having genitals. No, it's not about being biologically female. It's about being a human now.
And
And again, the emotional ending of the movie was the previous scene. If this scene came after the credits, it wouldn't have been that weird. But thankfully, they didn't make us sit through the credits to see this scene. It's a little, maybe it's not exactly an after credit scene because it does relate to the story and it's not like set up for some future garbage or whatever. But like, it's the denouement, the day after the story has concluded, and now we see a glimpse of our characters after the story going about their lives.
that's it, kind of. That's it.
No, it's
Like, it all
not.
just
Oh, okay.
boils down to a lady at the gynecologist. That's female power. Female power is Barbie goes to gynecologist. Which, I don't know about you ladies, but that seems like that's not like the most feminist message.
Nope, it's
Yeah,
not. But it is a very human message because she was used to be a doll.
Lady parts are the entirety of the lady. So excellent job.
But also, you think that, by the way, you were the one who's like, to be a woman is to be a female, and that means having the genital. Like, you boil women down to their genitalia, for what it's worth.
And with that, we end the film, and then we have the glossy, credits with a Nicki Minaj song.
Which was
Nicki Minaj version.
a pretty cool song. I didn't realize it was Nicki Minaj. I liked that song. It's like it's over the top of Barbie Girl, which is a song you would expect to be in the movie, and was left towards the end. So like they had it, so like if you were looking for it, you had it, but they didn't feel forced to include it in the movie. And like I don't know, I don't even like Nicki Minaj's music that much, but like I don't know, I thought it was pretty, it was bopping, you know, it was both hip and groovy.
Of I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. This movie started off as Barbie, and it was Weird Barbie. It was the toy that was handed off to Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig, and they played with it too hard. They decided that they were going to turn it inside out. They're going to rip off the hair. They were going to shave it. They were going to make it ugly. They were going to put all sorts of makeup on it.
Okay, Ben.
And then they were going to throw it out into the public. Now, those of us who are on the right, we look at the politics of this movie, we're like, man, so it sounds like a double sandwich. It doesn't sound like a Big Mac. It sounds like a double.
We know. You can't engage with the story because it has politics you don't agree with, and so therefore it must be bad. We know, Ben. We know.
Right? It sounds like the plot is crap, and the characters are crap, and the humor is crap, and then on top of that, the politics are crap. But you're missing the point. There's a reason this film has 91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Because it's
and
good.
The reason is, if you are on the left, you can make one of the world's most boring, crappy comedies. You can waste an extraordinary...
He's so mad that like people see things differently than him. It must be a conspiracy. Also, we're about to see another joke that happens in the movie that he thinks doesn't exist.
amount of money and talent.
He puts glasses over his glasses.
Some of the great IP
It's
ever
cute.
created.
It's a little funny.
But as long
It's
as
silly.
you slather it in a bunch of warmed-over, glorious Steinem nonsense, the critics will just salivate over you. They'll pretend that this is an actual good movie. So here's my prediction in terms of market. The marketing campaign for this movie has been astonishingly good. Right?
They were so good. They marketed two movies at once. Now everyone's seeing Oppenheimer in conjunction with Barbie, like you did, Ben. Like, yeah, they did a really good job.
If you walked into this movie and you knew nothing of what I just said, what would you think this movie is? You would think...
If you didn't know anything, what you would expect the movie to be is just like schlock to push out a toy. Instead, you get a movie that's trying to be a good movie. And I think like it's not. I don't think it's like, I don't know. It's not a Citizen Kane or whatever. But like, I think it is a good movie.
I think this movie was probably something like the Disney movie Enchanted, but with Barbie. It's gonna be Barbie.
No, I would have expected. Well, first of all, that's, as I understand it, not a very good movie. But like, you'd probably expect it to be like fucking Jungle Cruise, just some shit movie pushed out just to make some money.
Barbie Land, and then it's gonna be Barbie in the real world, and it's gonna be charming, and it's gonna be funny, and it's gonna be warm-hearted.
And it was
it's
all those things, by the way.
Cynical.
Yeah, as you're right, and it would be correct with
It's not
that
gonna be what
with that
morons
assumption.
talk about at Hollywood cocktail parties. It's just going to be fun. It's going to be a place where a
It
mom
was fun, but it
might
wasn't
visit
just
her
fun.
7-year-old or 8-year-old girl and enjoy themselves together, and then walk out with their arms around each
So
other. You might
weird
think
that he's
that's what
insistent it's for 7 and 8-year-old girls when it's PG-13. Like Ben, did you not notice
it
that?
was going to be. And undoubtedly, millions of moms and their daughters will think that. That's what you're seeing at the theaters. That's why you're seeing everybody wearing pink to the theaters. It's become like a Star Wars kind of thing, right? It's an actual cosplay of it. The number of moms
Yeah,
who
people
visit their
dress up.
daughters-
Ben, you dressed up. I mean, maybe, but like you dressed like Ken. Maybe that was intentional or not. I don't really know. But like, motherfucker, you dressed up.
Back to the theater. Week 2. Good luck with that. Really, good luck with that. Hollywood decided to empty out its own IP. Here, they decided they were going to take a golden piece of IP and they were just going to smash
A golden piece of IP. I think everyone would assume that the Barbie movie was going to be garbage, and that it's not was a surprise.
it and turn it into Weird Barbie. And I got to tell you, and this is going to have some ramifications for Barbie the brand. I don't know why Barbie the brand would hand this property over to people who clearly hate the property. In the real world,
they don't.
patriarchy rules.
They say a
Men
lot
are
of really good
bad.
things.
Women need to separate off from men and hate men in order to be unblinded to the patriarchy. And
So
then
Ben,
they can overthrow
well, we'll get to
the
the end.
patriarchy and create paradise. That is the thesis of the film. Last comment. Whenever I do film reviews like this, lengthy film reviews of movies like this, the left is always like, "Why are you taking this so seriously? How dare you take this so seriously?"
No, I think mostly they laugh at your
because
inability to process and grasp media.
Where hundreds of millions of dollars will be expended to get people to watch it. It has a heavily political message. It is explicitly designed to divide men from women. It has
It's
these
not.
negative messages directed at kids. It is supposed to be a kids movie. It's rated PG-13. It is not marketed.
So you know it's rated PG-13 all this time. We finally learned. You knew that it's not for 7-year-olds. It's a PG-13 movie. He knew the whole time.
PG-13. It is marketed to PG. It is marketed to moms who are going to skip the PG-13 rating and bring their daughters there anyway. It's a culturally relevant moment, a very culturally relevant moment. And so the entire left's attempts to play the face tattoo syndrome, watch as we take
What?
a piece of children's IP and wear its skin around like a mask, like Hannibal Lecter.
What?
You notice it, and then they're like, you noticed it? You're obviously very upset. I find it upset.
What do you mean you noticed it? You're very upset. No, it's about these topics. It's not weird that you noticed it, but you are clearly very upset. And I know I like that you're building in the protection to that criticism, knowing that people are going to be like, "Oh, Ben's mad that there are filmmakers, that there are screenwriters again."
Setting. When material is based on children's IP, marketed to little girls, actually ends up being angry feminist claptrap that alienates men from women, undermines basic human values, and promotes falsehood all at the same time. And I think a lot of people are going to have a right to be mad. So we'll see what the income trajectory of this film is. By the way, it's just going to die in China. The overseas market for this film, good luck with the Chinese Communist government putting their kids in front of this sort of stuff.
I don't
It's
know
not going
how
to
it is
happen.
in other countries,
Final
but
rating.
also
of-
for what it's worth, a filmmaker's job is to make a good movie. If that isn't culturally if that good movie doesn't necessarily get picked up in other countries, that's okay. Their job isn't to make money, even though you Ben, who thinks only through the capitalist lens, think that it should be about making the money. They tried to make a good movie, and that's what they did.
Out of 10 Barbies, how many Barbies? 10 out of 10 being good. The answer is negative all the Barbies. Negative all of
Oh,
them.
he's so clever, guys. He said negative Barbies. He did a thing, and he went outside of the range of the 1 to 10 Barbies. He's so funny.
Honestly, just as a piece of film, this sucker goes in like my bottom 10 ever. Ever. It is that bad. Not just because of the politics.
I wonder, like, that could be true, but only if Ben has had the fortune of exclusively watching really good movies. But he also hated Lady Bird, so I don't know.
Because the plot makes no sense.
I think he
Because
said
the
he hated
writing
Lady Bird.
makes no sense. Because the acting half the time makes no sense. The entire film is a dog's vomit. It is a dog's breakfast.
Tell us how you really feel.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with negative infinity Barbies.
It's so
that bad.
funny. He
10
said
out of
it
10 Barbies is
again.
like the stereotypical Barbie. This is Barbie head atop the robot body made by the weird kid from Toy Story 1. That's what this is. And also, by the way, Oppenheimer's good.
All right, so as expected, Ben fails at basic media comprehension. Literally, just like fails a reading comprehension course kind of thing. Absolutely hilarious. No notes other than all of the notes. Ben, stop making these. Like, for real, just don't make these reviews anymore. You clearly can't process what things mean in films. You come in with all of your bias projected directly at the screen. Never, like, not for a moment trying to consider that maybe people don't think like you, and things can be interesting if people don't think like you. Also, people probably shouldn't think like you. For what it's worth, you should also probably pay more attention to the literal things that are occurring, rather than invent the things that aren't happening for you to get mad at. Overall, your book report got D-, not very good. I'm not sure you actually watched it. Even though you took all those notes, somehow you seem to be very unclear about the basic things that happened in the course of the movie. So, yeah, Ben, do better, I guess, is my recommendation to you. But that was fun. I quite enjoyed it. I hope, chat, that you enjoyed it as well. Glad I did my research for this to see the things he was literally factually wrong about. In addition to, like, I just kind of enjoyed the movie. It was a good movie. Like, it wasn't. I'm not saying it's a 10 out of 10, but like the negative infinity Barbie rating is obviously nonsense. It's funny too that he put it on like a scale of 1 to 10 Barbies, as though he's gonna rate it on a scale of a Barbie scale, like in regards to what you would expect of Barbie. And then it's bad because it didn't, instead of being not Barbie, it wasn't what Ben liked. Ben read all the wrong things into it, and therefore it's bad. So, well done, Ben. Not mad. Definitely not mad that other people are good screenwriters and make money being screenwriters. Your movie that came out actually panned by critics because it was not good. Maybe they should have gotten a good screenwriter for it. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. But yeah, so just a reminder to everybody, if you'd be so kind, hit the follow button. If we get to 75 followers, I will be partnered on Kick, and we can punish me by making me drink tea that has salt or pepper in it. Your choice. Well, if we get close, we'll have like a vote somehow. Uh, but yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.